I needed Tom to be at my house to get back on the show.
Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, it seems, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends. Week 4.
That's right.
It's like this is normal now.
You're on a streak. You're on a streak.
Yeah,
but that's all right. We're happy to have you.
This is my show now, Tyler. Mine.
Yeah, he's taking it back. That's all right. Tyler is still recovering, but he's hoping to rejoin us next week, and that's fine. I think what it is he heard we were going to talk about Lumineth, and he ran the other direction as quick as he could.
He's like, nah, I'm fine. I'm good here.
But of course, if we're going to talk about Lumineth, we've got to have the one, the only good painter Lumineth man, Martin Orlando. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Thank you for having me back, everybody, especially Vince, Tom. Glad to be talking about elves. Reporting to you live from new location, the heartland of America, near New York City.
Yeah, that's definitely not that. That is definitely not that. Oh my gosh. However, we're happy to have you back on. We are going to be talking the new Lumineth Realm Lords book tonight. We're going to be talking about book 4 for Lumineth, yet somehow book 1.75. How are both of those things true? I don't know, but we'll find out. But of course, first, yeah, indeed. But of course, first, the news. Tom, what do you got?
So we're going to play a game. We're going to start this week's show with a game. And this game is Guess Where Tom Is. Because every week I seem to be somewhere different for this show.
That is true. That is true.
So if you think you might know where Tom is,
oh, I know.
You don't get to vote.
Oh, all right. Well, that's hardly seems fair.
But I have a clue.
Yeah. We already talked about that. You guys don't get to be part of that. The everybody else does. So hey, if you in the crowd know where I'm at, take a guess. Put it down in the show notes. Maybe give us a like. Okay, so here we go.
Yes, hit like. Look, hit like for Tom never being in the same place twice. It's going to be a road show for me next week too, by the way, because I'm traveling like tomorrow, and I'll be gone all the way through next week. And when I was faced with the real quick, we were faced with which book to do, right? Because Suns and Lumineth are both out. And when faced with the position of which one of these two books do I do from the road, it's only Suns. Suns is a roadshow book. I could do that one off the top of my head. Okay, this book, no, we gotta get in a comfortable chair. We gotta get a cuppa. You gotta be ready. So, Tom, take us through the news. What do we got?
Let's talk about this rumor engine.
It is a Warcry Seraphon sword from the same set as the new skink that was also revealed and is a later piece of news.
Why you gotta ruin everything, Vince?
It's not his fault. There's 3 types of rumor engines. Only one of them is interesting.
Right.
There's one where it could be anything. It's a rock. It's a piece of grass. It's like a doohickey. Or we know exactly what it is, like as Vince just said. And then there's the ones which are a canvas for our imagination. Yeah. We rarely get those. We should only be so lucky to get those every once in a while. But unfortunately today, it's like, it's very clear. It could be some 40K fans who have never looked at an Age of Sigmar model will think it's a Necron thing. And unfortunately, they're going to be disappointed because it is, in fact, a Seraphon sword.
Yeah, or spear, but blade.
It's a
Seraphon blade. Yes. Yes. Like, we already saw 2 members of the new Warcry thing, so cool. Good stuff. Great. It's fine. W. Henry said it's Tau. The shapes are the casts of the Tau. It's Tau. Then I care even less, Henry. Maybe that's true. They do reuse design elements, but a diamond, a square, a triangle, and a circle are some pretty weak iconography. I'm disappointed in you, Tau. Do better. But either way, it's one of those 2 things.
Yeah, there is a possibility that it is a scale kill team ruler, because those are the shapes that you measure with in kill team.
I understand that, yes. There's also a pentagon or whatever, which isn't on this list.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, all right, what's next?
We got, obviously, we have the Sons of Battlemont and the LRL stuff on pre-order. We're talking about LRL tonight.
Where is my enlightener?
In the box.
In the box, yeah.
In the box.
I need to get one.
Which I'm gonna try to get me one, I think, because I actually like Tzeentch, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna buy this box, just like I've bought every box for the last year. But
Sure.
I'm definitely gonna buy this one.
I want at some point the Enlightener, and I want that art. The art for that box is very nice. I think I'll frame it and probably put it on somewhere on this wall that's
Nice.
blank. Our artwork last, of course, when moving in.
Well, I love the helmless Enlightener. Like, dude, beautiful.
She's a good fig.
Yep. Chameleon Skink.
New
Great
Skank.
model.
Yeah.
We've already kind of spoiled this. We had the conversation about the new Seraphon stuff. So, Martin, is any of this inspiring you to paint up some Seraphon?
No, it's actually giving me a pet peeve because the blowpipe is below the plane. It is hanging over the base rim. I'm one of those people where it's not used to seeing something like that. Other than that, it's fine as a model. Very nice and detailed. I really hope they get around to, like, they really are just like dancing around the bush. Seraphon is one of those armies that desperately needs like a core troop, like revitalization of these models.
Sure.
Some of them are, no offense to Sculptor, but just by comparison, what's now they're cartoony.
Yeah.
Just the tooling is showing its age, and if the future range looks like this model, I really appreciate that.
I don't think you're insulting anybody by saying that. Like, just they did the best they could when the time they made those sculpts. Like, other than a few of the sort of newer ones, it's obvious that they were made, a long time ago with less good tech. I mean, that's all it was to it, right? I mean, hey,
those people have just retired at this point,
right? Yeah,
they're in their 60s. They did their work. They worked in the workforce, and so now it's on for a new generation or two to do some sculpting. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
My point is that I'm making a joke about the fact that like these things were sculpted like back in the 90s when it was literally somebody who's probably retired now.
I got you. No, I also have chat up, and someone is adding me in the chat. Manzak Minis. Hello, Manzak.
Yeah, I mean, my general feeling is these look good. Want to see more. Will we get new Kreuger? Yes, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Just deal with it. One can only hope. One can only hope. Because those are, you talk about models showing their age. Ooh, boy. So that'd be fun. I will laugh, and it will be completely appropriate and continuing my theory that we live in the worst of all possible worlds if the Seraphon range gets refreshed before the Skaven range does. Or we can hold out hope that we sneak a whole new Seraphon line in through Warcry, and then we also just do the same with Skaven. In which case, let's do it. Let's start shuttling it in. Just we're gonna sneak entire line refreshes in through Warcry. I'm down with that.
If there was ever a perfect verse box, there it is.
Absolutely, of course, the classic enemies.
Skaven and Seraphon.
100%.
Yeah, they ate our god once.
It's the best thing.
But he got better. All right. I'm glad you enjoyed that pronunciation, Manny. Let me give you two one more time. See, so the appropriate pronunciation for those giant lizards is Kreuger. So there you go.
I'm so done with you. In addition to Vince's treatment and what we've covered in the news so far, we have another news item that's actually not in the news items, and that is Warhammer has come to Magic. That's right, folks. If you want to spend a lot of money, you can go buy a Warhammer 40k commander deck, and on the 17th, which is in 5 days, you'll be able to log in and buy a Secret Lair Age of Sigmar set, and a Blood Bowl set, and a 40k set of cards, including Archeon the Everchosen, and a number of Ingal Miraz, and a number of other aspects of the Warhammer world brought to life in Magic. So
it's important to note that the AOS ones are not new cards. The Secret Lair.
No.
They are like Neve Black Talon is one of them, and so on and so forth. Like
I did. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say they are reflavored, renamed cards, but they still contain they're reskin. That's the appropriate words. It still contains the original name of the card underneath. For example, Gal Miraz is the Loxodon Warhammer or whatever.
Yeah. Like Archeon is Nagila Great card. And
he should have been the. I disagree. I don't like his card. Archeon should have been.
Archeon should not be 2/2. Let's start there.
He should have been Grizzle or whatever, Grizzlebrand or whatever. That demon.
Sure.
That would have been the appropriate reskin. Grizzle's like 7/7 and an actual engine. Anyways,
you can't change. You can't change the creature types when you do reskins, and so he would have been a demon, and Archeon's not a demon. He's a human warrior.
Whatever. He rides a big demon. It's fine.
It's fine. It's
close
magic.
enough.
There's I think there's only so much translation you can do from like a tabletop war game which doesn't revolve around those 5 color themes to Magic. Yeah.
What I will say that I loved about it is, as an aside, Archeon is like would be traditionally the commander that would bring 5-color warriors together. So it actually lets you build a 5-color warrior commander chaos deck, which is interesting. Like even the chaos 40k deck is not a 5-color. It's only Abaddon's deck is only 3-color. So it's interesting.
Sure.
If I just may add one tiny thing, I really would like to get a better look at that the hyper realism Neve Black Talon art that they made for that card. I was like, oh, that looks like that belongs in like a game store, like a 18x24 sort of poster. That I every once in a while, like I mean, Warhammer is schlock, like it deserves to be a little bit stylized in most of its art depictions, but every once in a while, hyperrealism really does, like, I think, good work.
That's fine.
And there was a whole thing over the weekend for 40K Day, and because 40K turned 35, and there was an art print that they showed on screen of Abaddon, which it could have been from the Magic set, I'm not sure, but like it was a hyper realistic rendition of him, and I was like, I'd like to see a little bit more of that in Games Workshop publications. That is excellent. That's my only real takeaway from the Magic the Gathering Warhammer stuff.
Cool. Yeah, it's fine. Great. Anything else?
No, it's good.
All right. Cool. Well, let's keep moving. Let's go to some pick of the week. Martin, you're the guest. What would you like to share with everybody for pick of the week?
All right, so I have 2 things. One is a contest. A friend of the show, Aaron Lovejoy of Miniature Monthly. Miniature Monthly puts together a yearly painting. It's like an online painting competition called Miniature Monthly Masters. I believe I sent you the link to that one, Vince.
Yep.
And it started as September 18th, and it runs through December 10th. There's like up to cash prizes up to $2,000. Sponsors, prize support. All of the full rules are on their Patreon, patreon.com/one-word miniature monthly. People who know me in person know that I tend to bring the Miniature Monthly t-shirts to events. I'm probably one of the only people who owns more than one of those t-shirts, but I really like repping them. It's a fun group of painters who they go to various conventions. They teach online, stuff like that. They're fun people, very good painters. And I thought it was just cool to rep their contest. And like, I think this year they opened it up to everyone, not just like you have to paint one of the sponsors, like miniatures. I think you can do anything. So like Games Workshop stuff too. And the other one was a video. Have you interviewed Roman?
No, I've never interviewed Roman. I'd really like to, but you know, the time difference often makes it difficult. But yes, Roman's awesome.
Yeah. So Roman Lepat, who is a judge, he's often a teacher and a paint judge at the Nova Open. I don't know if he goes to any other American events. He usually goes by his YouTube tag, which is Massive Voodoo. And in the wake of Golden Demon, he put out a video talking about miniature painting judging. Not just about what a judge looks for in how you execute your paint work for like a competition piece, but also like the pride and logistics involved, both mentally and physically, in becoming a paint judge. And I think he was actually making me interested in trying to go to one of the European shows. But excuse me, it was a nice perspective that you don't usually see very often, in terms of you know what we as gamers and painters are exposed to on our side of the convention. We're usually not behind the rope line, as it were. It was nice to listen to one of the grandmasters of the fantasy world, fantasy painters, talk about what he does.
Yeah, it was a great video. Linked down below. Vindicatus, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I don't really play as much anymore. I get occasional Commander games in now, but I don't know. For a while, Legacy, that would be the answer. All right, Tom, what's your pick?
I'm gonna have to go with, in theme with the show, I'm gonna have to go with AOS Coach's LRL rundown. I watched that and it was thoroughly informative, and I appreciated his take on it. And so, if you want, if you are not done with LRL by the end of this show, go check out Coach's overview. It's fantastic.
Very nice. I'm going the opposite direction for my pick of the week, which is, look, do any of us really care about these elves? I think the answer we all know is no. This is a placeholder until next week. Okay? And so if you can't wait to get your hands on that sweet, sweet Sons of Behemoth information, if you want to be a good guy with a giant, then go check out Rerolling One's review of Sons. It's there, linked down below. Great discussion. Very fun. Enjoyed it thoroughly. And they touch on a lot of fun stuff about the book. So let's get this placeholder going so we can get to next week and get to the good stuff. All right. Okay. Let's do some hobby time. Tom, we're going to start with you since you're up top on the screen. What are you working on?
Fire Slayers.
What are you working on Fire Slayers for, Tom?
Got an event coming up in 2 weeks. No, next week. A week and a half. There we go.
Sure.
Up in Chicago. So Holy Havoc.
Absolutely.
So Vince, about 2 weeks ago, the rest of you ought to know this. About 2 weeks ago, Vince, no, probably 4 weeks ago, Vince is like, you know what? He's driving home from Nova. He said, Tom, I know we're both going to do Skaven. We both, like, I know you've bought armies, models for this, but you know what? I'm not feeling.
You didn't buy anything, but continue.
I did. No, I did. I bought Plague Monks, and I bought.
You had our friend 3D print a bunch of stuff for you. You did do that.
I have boxes. I bought a Vermin Lord with my winnings from
Continue.
From Atlantic City. So yes, I used all of those winnings to buy my Skaven.
Sure.
And then Vince is like, you know what? We're doing a different army. And so I needed to figure out what that was. So now I'm doing Fire Slayers, and I'm painting Fire Slayers.
Sure.
Thanks, Vince. Thanks, man.
Yeah, like it was all me. Like you weren't weren't also in the same position going, I can't paint a whole army. That was a mutual decision if there ever was one.
I also just found out, here's another hint for those that might be guessing where I'm at. This is the first time that dwarves have ever been painted in this household. And that's pretty significant given how many armies have been painted in the place that I'm in right now.
Yeah, no, sure.
Never painted a dwarf army?
No, he never did.
Wow.
No, in the family. Yeah.
Okay. That's because, why would you? All right, Martin.
True.
What are you working on?
So I did my hobby for the night, which was mount a Space Marine tank. This is a temporary mount that I'll be airbrushing it this weekend and next week. I'm currently working on a 40K project. I'm looking ahead in time I'm already planning something so large that it will be for next summer. People will probably notice my hard 40K turn in terms of like what I've been working on, because I think it's like I've painted quite a bit of Lumineth in these past like year and a half, 2 years since they've been out. I will have to paint some more, possibly for some build adjustments. I'm going to Kansas City at the end of the month, and Du Bois, not sure yet. But I'm still juggling a few plans, talking to some people about what I want the rest of the year to look like in terms of my plans. I will be building everything I bring to an event is usually an experiment for something in the future. So I think what's basically on my hobby table, aside from some 40K stuff, is I'm building a display board that can fit in a suitcase, along with the regular stuff that fits in a suitcase. Because if I can take a compact portable display board to Kansas City, that's what I'm going to bring to LVL. And so that will be the test. If it falls apart during or at Kansas City,
Sure.
No big deal. I'll try something new. But yeah, I am thinking about how to cap off the Lumineth. This is Halloween time. It is spooky season. I am thinking about bringing back something which has not been seen since 2019. Friends of mine will know what I'm talking about. The other army that I played at exactly one event. Maybe bringing those back. maybe for Adepticon. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, the main thing that I'm focusing on is 40K for Armies on Parade. I really would like to try and swing for the fences with Armies on Parade next year, and at something for Nova. Yeah, I got a lot of things on my plate right now.
Okay. All right. Well, my hobby time has been a rather intense weekend, to say the least, as I had to get videos ready, various and sundry videos ready, since I will be gone for like 10 days. I had to get an entire display board built and painted over the course of a weekend, so that was a real intense time. I also still hate display boards. I would like to yeet the entire concept into the sun.
That's not true. You love them. How many Holy Wars? How many boards have you made for us in the last couple of years?
Too many.
And no, Vince makes them because he knows that's what's required to win.
They are a requirement, so hence I do them.
I will say in their defense, Vince, just as a quick thing, there's like a 3-circle Venn diagram, the Celtic ring, as it were, of like the intersection about where Warhammer is.
Yeah.
D&D, fine art, and military/scale modeling, like model trains. No one likes dioramas more than model train makers, and that's where I think the display board stuff comes from. Or yes, whether you like it or not.
It's on that side of the
Vince,
little
have you
triangle.
read
Yes.
the pack? Have you read the pack for this year?
Yes, I read the pack.
Oh, well, it's not out, so I guess you could.
Tom's joke has been deflated.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I was gonna say because
I read the rules. They were in the registration on the website.
I don't know that it's in the pack. That's all I'm saying.
It doesn't matter whether or not it's in the pack. That's not the important part. Okay.
I understand.
It is a hobby event, hence this is a required thing, and it's because I respect Steve and respect his event that I do this. I spent 40 hours over the course of a weekend building this freaking thing.
Electman24, I don't know if there's a difference between artistic merit and them being like compulsory in American competitions. It requires a skill set, time, and space that not everybody has.
Right. It is not equitable. Like in the long term, it is not like it is something that I think our events are going to have to come to terms with.
Yeah, sure.
Like it is not equitable.
Just that, like you can't. If you do fly, you're very limited on what you can bring. You know, I pulled everything together after I made the board, and I took a picture of it. I literally just piled it all on the floor and took a picture of it.
That was great.
And it was easily $800 worth of stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Like easily, maybe more.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Now, I didn't use all of it. Like some things are tools, right? Like obviously there are power tools involved and foam cutters and stuff like that. That's a reusable thing.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But there's also plenty of things that were used as well. And you know, like it starts with just the basic cost of entry to get the raw materials I needed for the thing was about $100 at like Home Depot, right? To go get all the basic stuff I needed, and then everything on top of that. And I'm like, what a insanely prohibitive cost.
Right.
Like I happen to be driving a long distance. I can afford that. I happen to have the money and paints and all these things on hand that I can afford to do that thing. Right. But I was like, that is such a crazy thing. But this isn't display board talk. Anyways, I made it.
I'm sure it was great.
As with all of these things, I turned it into a fun thing in that I did a full background for it. A full 2x2 canvas painting for it.
It looks great. He Bob Rossed it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and so like I wanted to, which was a nice chance to work on 2D art, right? In like a landscape type painting, which isn't something I get to do very often.
One last comment. Bray, how long until we're required to cosplay? At most narrative events, not match play events, there is an award for best costume.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Look, and that's a whole separate thing. Like, I don't care about separate awards. Good. That's always fine. More awards is good.
All right.
Like, at any rate, and not soon enough. I'll dress up like a Skaven if I can tomorrow. That's cool. Like, if you can get me some chaos armor, I'm in.
He'll dress up like a Daemonette too.
100%. Yes, I'm good.
Or a leather daddy.
But at any rate, yeah, it was so like. The key is with any of those things, you have to turn them into something fun. So doing a canvas painting, which is something I don't normally get to do, was the fun part of doing it, right? And so that was good. I also painted my Warlord over the same time period in between. So it was actually like two projects stacked on top of each other as things were drying. Like it'd go from one step, so I'd go from one chair to the other. And I got all that finished and all the videos made. And now for a fun thing before I leave, I was just putting some paint on this guy right here, Mr. Centaur Man, Mr. Chaos Centaur Man. And I'm just playing around with different skin tones and stuff like that with him, and horse fur and that kind of thing, just for funsies. All right. So, with that, put your feelings on display boards down in the comments. What do you think about them? I'm interested. I'd love to do a whole show on this, but nobody would watch. That's what I think.
Coach and I tried that once already at the beginning of lockdown. It was people came for Coach. I'll say that much.
Sure. I'm interested in the community's thoughts. Drop it down in the comments below, or put it in the chat right now. At any rate, gentlemen, let's talk about elves. I think it's elf time. Lumineth Realm Lords 2022. Let's get into it. LRL. Okay. So, I should also state that one of the things that makes it hard for me is I play a different army every year. Hence, that means a new display board every year. It's not like I can make one and then just use it.
I mean, not only that, if you're competing for like top awards, you need to change it up. Like, you can't just take the same thing every year.
Sure. All right. Let's start with an overview of the Lumineth Realm Lords. Here we go. This is my summary. Martin, I'm curious as to yours. You sent a nice detailed email beforehand. That was very good. What's up, Trav? How you doing, buddy? It's very late where you are. I hope you're doing well.
Oh my God, it's Travarian. Just please, quick thing. Your plasma sword tutorial was excellent. I used it on my Dark Angels this weekend. It was very nice. Thank you very much.
Well, most everything Trove does is excellent, so that's not surprising. As per all 3.0 books, it increased usability and streamlining. That was certainly a part of this. We see it again here. It remains consistent throughout the 3.0. So good stuff there. Still very much a blue deck. The units require synergies, magic, and tricks to reach full efficacy. Still can impact the other player's game in big ways. So that is to say, it's very much not an army that just sort of does its own thing and then you do your own thing and then you kind of meet in the middle and see what happens. Right? Which is how I think of Suns or Ironjaws or Ogres. What is it with the destruction armies in that? Maybe they're like red deck wins. I don't know. Magic is still the backbone of the army. I mean, obviously, they are still a largely and highly magical army. Although, there are more playstyles that I think opened up with this. It's not like you can... I'm not saying you can go no magic. I don't even know how that's probably possible.
We totally could. Alarith and Wind Chargers, done.
Yeah. I think you're going to need some kind of magic theoretically. But it doesn't have to be like all magic and that's my only strat. So, sure. That's good. Several units got a nice glow up, but there are some expected nerfs as well. There are some glow ups I was actually generally excited about in reading this. And then my final question is this the high elves people were looking for? All right, Martin, we're going to start with you. At the summary level here, 40,000 foot overview, what's your take on this book?
This is almost the same layout as the summary I sent you. Yeah,
it is similar.
I think that this is more or less in line with what we've come to expect from the 3rd edition books, especially since, given the latency that these were all written and tested like into like the UK lockdown, like of early like 2021, when they were getting into their stride of like, how do we write these books from home? How do we try and update? How do we try and put out enough updates in an orderly fashion? They were probably getting all of the feedback that 3rd edition is a top-heavy rule set with a lot of complex core rules, so they've been trying to streamline and make more digestible the factions themselves. And I think that this is in line with that. I like the internal balance of this army is better than it has ever been. I was writing army lists as the leaks were coming through, and like as I was looking at the embargo day videos, I don't know what you call it, last Saturday.
Sure.
And finding the lists the possibilities that I was coming up with, not necessarily like this is going to be the tournament winning full power thing, but just like the amount of exploration and freedom I had to tinker with builds and bring such a variety of choices was really appreciated. And I think the jury's still out on whether or not this is, I think, how like a thematic successor to High Elves. But I think without any leaks, any rumors, I think it's mostly common sense that the army is not going to feel complete in its playstyle until a few books from now, or maybe the next one, when
Sure.
Tyrion and the Sons of the Sun come in and bring a lot more of the melee units that I think people have been missing who are fans of those old High Elves. However, I still think that this was a welcome update, streamlining and removing some balance issues, certain combos which had no reason to be in the game, while offering new tools that players haven't had access to before.
Okay. All right. Tom, what's your high level read?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like most third edition books. Like, I mean, the reality is that I think that the book is the most balanced it's ever been. I think that a lot of the really egregious stuff that was present was removed. The things that didn't work how one expected or made the game largely play how it doesn't normally, a lot of that stuff was corrected. I mean, when you look across the board, like a lot of stuff was dealt with. You know, the main exceptions to that being, I mean, technically what is it called? The stupid things like
Total Eclipse.
Total Eclipse.
Yeah, Total
Stupid
Eclipse
thing.
is still there. The stupid thing, Total Eclipse. Total Eclipse is still there. That's still egregious, but largely, like, I like most of the changes. They rounded off a lot of the rough edges. They simplified stuff largely. I mean, Teclis is still going to be sorting through a deck of cards for his
Sure.
spells. But
My Rolodex of spells.
But yeah, exactly. But ultimately, like, some of the things that were really egregious to me that I just couldn't deal with, like, and what I mean by that is, like, I just didn't like it. Frustrated me, or it didn't make sense. They, like, a lot of the small things they caught and corrected, like some metal weapons on the Swordmaster folks.
Sure.
Awesome. So yeah.
Okay. I think the most important thing we can say before we leave the summary is the age of the Cow Mountains has begun. So we all herald our new Cow Overlords.
I'm glad I spent probably 200 hours on that Avalanor a year and a half ago, so I don't
Absolutely.
have to pay one now.
It's paying off. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Let's get into the meat. Let's get into the meat of this thing. All right. Start with some basic allegiance abilities. They have sub-factions. They're still here. Shocker. They still have lightning reactions. It's still the same thing it was before. That's going to be a lot of this.
Yeah.
I made the joke earlier that this is their fourth book, but somehow also it's also book 1.75. I stand behind that statement. By the way, original recipe LRL, Broken Realms Teclis, the updated Lumineth book, this. That's what I'm counting as the 4. I understand that 2 of those are basically the same. This is basically the same as those books anyways, so somehow we're still only on book 1.75. I mean, what I'll say is a lot of this is the same. It did streamline things. It did clean out a lot. Like, it gutted a lot of NPE. Okay, which is good.
And there's,
by the way, on both
bloat.
player sides.
Yep.
Yeah. Like there's bloat. Like, it was like, this shouldn't exist. Like, there's certain,
Right.
like, there were certain spells that were just terrible. It's like, why is this here? Get rid of it. Get rid
So
of it. Get rid of
we
this
cleaned out a lot of the cobwebs and stuff like that. But this is, like, if you weren't an LRL expert, a lot of this just feels very similar but brought into 3.0. So fine, whatever. Okay. You know, they're not all going to be Nurgle. I kind of wish this one would have in some ways. I wish we had taken a chance and made some bigger changes, but here we are. That's fine.
Sure.
All right. And then so lightning reflex is still the same thing. You can activate 2 units. They did just clean up the whole strike last effect thing, not being an eligible unit to pick, so on and so forth. They just kind of wrote all that out. And then the Aether Quartz Reserve is almost the same, but we cut the one that no one ever used. So now you have 3 instead of 4 abilities, which is +1 to save, the one you use for all your normal units, which is +1 to hit, the one you don't use, and magical boost, which is the one you use when you're trying to shove spells down people's throats or buff your own units and failing.
Yep.
So there we go. Aether Quartz still does what Aether Quartz does. That is to say, you get 1 reserve and it subtracts 1 bravery.
Yeah. I mean, they changed the list of what was available, but sure.
Yeah, it's 3 out of the 4 old effects.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Probably not much to say there. I think we're good. The basics are still the basics.
Yep.
Let's keep going. All right, let's get right into them juicy command traits. As per always, since there are so many of these, we're not going to talk about every one of them. There are 4 different groupings of these, because of course there are. Venari, Sinari, Wind Mage, and Stone Mage. So, a lot.
Yep.
We could probably just stop doing that, but hey, why not?
I will say that now that they removed mandatory traits and artifacts from the sub-factions, a lot of these choices are cool, and now I actually get to use them.
Yeah, sure. No, there are some fun things in here. Okay, so let's play the standard game. Hot Pickathon. What are your hot picks? What do you like? What do you like? What do you not like?
I mean, rip. First of all, rip Blade of Leaping Gold. They took it away from us.
Wasn't that an artifact?
It was.
Command traits first. Don't be trying to jump ahead.
Yep.
Don't be trying to jump ahead.
Yeah.
I saw you jumping into the artifacts.
Sorry, I saw it on the page. Yeah.
I understand.
Now, also, unfortunately, due to the fact that I do not have a copy of the book yet, it's out on Saturday or whatever.
Well,
I've only been able to see them in certain things, but I do know that.
You got the Prezzo, didn't you?
What?
This
I sent you the presentation.
Yeah, this presentation is doing.
That is true. Yes, that is true. Yeah, so I would like. I do like Fast Learner. It's always a fun thing to just get even more magic police on the table.
Yeah, my only problem with Fast Learner is it's so weird that it's the second unbind that you get the reroll on, which will often come at a weird time. But
not necessarily, because you're going to get your first reroll from the shrine.
Sure.
And then you get your second reroll from the warlord trait.
That is a possibility. That is a thing you could do. Yes.
That is usually what I did when I played Zytrek. That's why.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, Fast Learner's fine. I agree. Rerolls to unbinds are good. Look, we got to give a big shout out to Tectonically Attuned. Let's begin the Alarith Love Fest. Here we go. At the start of your shooting phase, you can pick 1 friendly Spirit of the Mountain. Within 3 inches, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's Geomantic Blast. Look, the only problem ever with Geomantic Blast was you only got 1 attack. You know what's cooler? Making 2 attacks.
Yeah.
It's cooler.
No, I saw that. It was like, oh, Avalanor gets to do this twice now. All right, that's fine. Because he's gonna be within range of the Stone Mage anyway, because you want the Stone Mage symbiosis, and so you're just double dipping on the cool stuff you get to do by having these 2 models in the same zip code.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I like Unyielding Toughness, but it's the same type of thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Unyielding Toughness is wild. Fleshy Abundance, but as an ability, not a spell cast. Yeah, sure.
I knew one of you were going to pick that. It's like that seems like it's the clear winner. Like of
I mean, that's what it is.
Period.
Yes. Unyielding. I gave that up to you, Tom, because I figured your Nurgle love would carry you into that one. But yes, I mean, Unyielding Toughness. At the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Stone Guard unit, so your base troop, wholly within 6 inches of this general. So I mean, you do have to be close, but you're just going to have the hero sitting behind them. And add 1 to the wounds characteristic of that unit until your next hero phase. So, I mean, basically, this means you have a unit and it has a Stone Mage bodyguard. Effectively, or caddy.
It says wholly within 6. You're usually not going to take more than units of 10. Like, I've seen people taking units of 15. Not sure why, because you're really losing attacks at that point.
Right.
But, like, a unit of 10, it is, I think, hard to make a unit of 10 not within 6 inches because of how you're moving your character and your units together. You want
Yeah,
to
no, it's a pretty reasonable bubble that's fairly easy to maintain, especially since this unit, as we'll see later, is going to move somewhere and then stand there and be like, yeah, sure, come get it. Right? I mean, that's this unit's play.
They are the definition of the come at me bro unit now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep, upper anvils.
I will also say... Oh, good. Go.
And at least for right now, because we are doing 6-month seasons, how does this interact with Expert Conquerors? Like,
what do you mean?
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of another ability in the book.
Yeah, there's still 3 wound models. They're fine.
Yeah,
and it's their wounds characteristic either way. So
I'm sorry.
I'll also
the lore master thing where you count as never mind.
Yeah, no issue. I'll also give a quick shout out to Grand Wind Rider. If you are going to try to use like a wind charger strat, the make them move 16 and fly bubble, that is like a massive change to the size of that bubble, right? Because it goes from wholly within 6 to wholly within 24, which is just a wild change on how easy it is to affect them with that. It basically means your wind chargers all fly and move 16 now, so that's pretty cool. If that's a unit you like, I could see that being a command trait you take. I don't really give much of a hoot about any of the Venari or Scenario. We mentioned Fast Learner. It's like, okay. Spellmaster is okay. You can use the magical boost Aether Quartz. So like twice a game being able to reroll or +1 a cast is fine. Nothing wrong with it. Like
I just picked that one because it's like I have been using it for dozens upon dozens of games. Sure. And I find that like just having those extra reliability in controlling my opponent's magic output, especially when I know that that's something that I absolutely need to control in order for the tempo to be in my favor. I'll take it. It's not the best one on this list, of course, but I was just pointing it out because it's like it's nice to see that it stayed. It's now universal. Some of the stuff, it's important to also, I put it in the summary. A lot of these spells abilities that used to be locked with subfaction are now available to all players. Yeah. And that really opens up the list variability and tool set that people have access to. And I think that's a good thing.
All right, let's talk artifacts. Again, same game. Here we go. What are the artifacts that you enjoy here? What do you like? What's your hot picks? What's your takes? What's your not takes?
Tom first, please. I'm trying to pull it up so I can like see without having to squint. Sorry.
Sure. That's fine. Tom,
do
you have
sure.
any?
I'm a big fan of Waystone just because I like a little bit of mobility. That's fun. Phoenix Stone, likewise, because who doesn't all enjoy regenerating heroes coming back? And then obviously there's the dumb, boring stuff like Silver Wand, which is generally not a bad pick.
Sure, just an extra cast is never a bad thing, becoming a double caster. May I direct everyone's attention to Molten Talisman?
I was getting there.
Oh, yes, baby. Again, it rains good fortune upon our cow brethren. The Molten Talisman. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Alarith. So your cows, your Stone Guard, and your Stone Mage. Units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer if the bearer did not charge in the same turn. Now, I should state that the Little Cow Mountains are already on 2s to wound, but that can push them through a penalty to wound and still keep them on 2s. The Big Cow Mountain is on 3s to wound, and this will put him on 2s, which makes him way scarier, as the Stone Guard are also on base 2s, and this would push them to 2s. Or sorry, are on 3s base, and this will push them to 2s, which is awesome. So, good stuff.
And the condition, super easy to do on a Stone Mage.
Yeah.
Cool. I did not charge. I just moved. They get the bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let me just read out the things Tom said he liked, because I agree. Waystone is interesting. I'm not sure about the Phoenix Stone, but it's a neat trick.
There's
Waystone
no good
is once per
characters
battle.
to put it on.
What's that?
There's no good characters to put the Phoenix Stone on.
This is the challenge, but we'll get there. Waystone. Once per battle in your movement phase, instead of making a normal move with the bearer, you can pick a point on the battlefield within 12 inches of them. If you do so, remove the bearer from the battlefield and set them up again within 1 inch of that point and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. Because it's restricted to a 12-inch teleport, you can still be within 3. Yes, it's a short-range teleport, but it can often be quite useful in just getting a Venari hero kind of where you want them. So it's not bad. Anything that says you can set up within 3 or at 3 away is not too bad. The Phoenix Stone is once per battle before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to another friendly Lumineth Realm Lords hero within 12 inches of the bearer, that's the tricky part of this. To another friendly Lumineth Realm Lords hero within 12 of the bearer, not to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that wound or mortal wound would cause that hero to be slain. You can roll a die on a 3+. That wound or mortal wound is negated. You can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to that hero, and any wounds that remain to be allocated are negated. It's a fun trick. My problem with it is, A, I can't use it on the hero it's actually sitting on. And
but
2,
you can't use it on Eltharion.
Sure. Yeah, you could use it on Eltharion. But you got to have another hero who's like then caddying around relatively close to Eltharion. Now, it's only within 12, not wholly within, but still.
Let me start again. You can use it on Teclis.
Sure. This is all true. I don't disagree with any of it.
You can.
My
use it
other
on
problem is it's on a 3-up.
Who's trying to survive? I understand that, but my point is that, like, you know what's worse than Teclis? Teclis coming back on a 3-up just because.
I understand.
And so now there's an order of operations for who you have to kill in the backfield, because if you don't kill the supporting character before Teclis, then there's a chance that Teclis pops back up on a 3+, and he takes enough most of the time to remove anyways. It's now just that much harder.
Sure.
I get the mental calculation there. I'm not denying it. I just think that there's more reliable picks on these lists.
But it's interesting. Like the
key is that it messes up the action economy for what the enemy wants to do, because now it forces them to make decisions that they don't want to make.
Okay. No, I get it. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Jaren, it would only trigger on 1 wound, because it's the wound that would cause that hero to be slain. Then you
right, but then all the rest of the wounds are negated.
Correct. Yeah, you don't get to keep rolling the die.
No, but any other wounds that are going to be allocated are immediately
negated. I understand. Yeah, absolutely. From that series of attack, right? From that particular attack, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you can if you like Teclis's great enemy is shooting. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like if you've got a second shooting unit, you can still just blast his D3 wounds off the table, because he doesn't negate wounds later in the phase just from that attack. Sure. But yes.
No, that's true. Yeah. Of course.
Okay. At any rate, there's some stuff here. The thing that makes me the most sad is the Send Louis amulet or whatever, this one up in the Venari, where the bearer can run and still charge in the same turn. Such a great effect. And I look at that and go, nope, I got nobody to put this on.
Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? Put it on a Llama Cat?
Right. You're going to, like, the Llama Cat is your only choice, and that's just, okay. It's like, what's this guy doing?
I'm definitely going to put it on my BSB. Like,
yeah. Sure. There are just so few heroes to put this on of any value, and it's really a shame, because we're still missing that core, solid, non-unique melee hero. So,
well,
so if I may just ask, it's like designers. There's an item where it's like Mac McHammer, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds caused by arcane bolt spells that are cast by the bearer. Why does this exist?
For comedy.
Okay.
It is for comedy.
Okay.
Brandon, all of those attacks, all of their weapons are used as a single attack profile, so they would all be resolved and then they would all be negated. Okay, beyond that point. But if a second model activates, that's a different attack. So then the second model could chop him down. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Anything else we want to mention?
No.
Oh, yeah, now I can say R.I.P. Blade of Leaping Gold. Right when we were, everyone, like, there was this whole back and forth about the Lore Seeker being unique and then not unique and then unique again and then not unique when They could have written the language like they have in previous books and previous editions and other game systems where you can only take one of this per army, but it's still a common hero who can take upgrades, etc. And if you wanted to be fun, you wanted to make an old version of the Tenebral Shard, you would take the Lore Seeker with Flaming Weapon and Blade of Leaping Gold, back when this model was not unique, and you could make it go just shank a hero. And now that we have definitively determined that this is not a unique hero, they take away the toy that would have made this character fun for that purpose.
Yeah.
That's fine. He got the appropriate change. We'll talk about him in a little while.
Yes.
All right, spell lores. Important thing to note about the spell lores. The main lore of Haish is still 6 spells. It is the same list with one notable change. One very notable change and / addition. I don't mean they're exactly the same functionality. A little bit of stuff was tweaked here and there. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Lambent Light is out. Overwhelming Heat from Zytrek is in. That's the basic discussion there on that one. And then your other 2 spell lists, which is the Lore of the Winds and the Lore of the High Peaks, or the Wind Mage and Stone Mage, respectively. Those 2 are down to just 3 spells, and basically we cut the ones that no one ever cast. And I'm not sure even these will often be cast, but hey, here we are. There's a couple of them that I think are worth talking about. Yeah. So let's talk about the 6 spells in Haish first. Okay. Notable things here. Overwhelming Heat is still basically Overwhelming Heat, which came out of Zytrek. If you're not familiar with it, if you never played against it, it's a very long-range spell. It's a good spell. Does some mortal wounds. And then halves their movement phase. Well, their movement characteristic. All the way around, it automatically halves their movement characteristic, and then it might do mortal wounds. That's the appropriate way to say it. Perfectly reasonable spell. Half movement effects are really good when they're at long range. They're really bad when they're short range. I don't know how else to say it. I love when I see a spell that's like, have an enemy's movement, and you have to be within 12 inches. I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
They're already...
Yeah, they're already too close. It's too late. They're inside the fences, as it were. I will say that my Zytrek brain rot is showing, because I do not remember the casting values being so high on all of these spells. But for all of these games, I've been +1, so my mental math is thinking, did this go up by 1? No, I just haven't looked at the spell's actual casting values in a while. There are high casting values, but as we'll see, you've got plenty of ways to mitigate that. Normally, if you looked at a book and you saw Solar Flare 8, Protection of Haish 8, Overwhelming 7, Total Eclipse 9, you'd be like, oh, I'm never going to cast any of my spells. But hey, in Lumineth, between your Aether Quartz and other tricks you have, these are very achievable numbers. Yeah. So that's the next thing to mention. Total Eclipse is still here. It still does exactly what it did before. But now its casting value is 9 instead of 8. So I guess it's fair now. Never mind the fact that we have an entire cast of wizards who can all just auto cast at 9, or a big boy who can auto cast at 10, 12, or automatic non-unbindable. Sure, whatever, man.
And that character has access to both Total Eclipse and Howling Gale. So if you really want to shut down any opportunity for your opponent to do something with their command points, you can.
Yes. I think the thing that is exciting is Speed of Haish is still here, which is fun. It was always my favorite spell. I like Speed of Haish, which is the casting value of 5 and a range of 18 inches. And you just pick a friendly Lumineth Realm Lords unit and double their move characteristic. What a fun spell. It's fun. I have no issues with that. It's neat. It's neat when suddenly, like, Dawn Riders shoot 28 inches across the board. That's a cool thing. It's pretty neat. Or Foxes go 48, or whatever.
Another note is, as we'll see later, I didn't know where to put this information, so I think it might be just appropriate here. Protection of Haish. So in the previous book, none of the ward save spells were keyword locked. So Teclis is 18-inch protection of Teclis, and protection of Haish, which is 9 inches, could work on allied units.
Right.
But they've expanded the allied list. Teclis's spell has been keyword locked. This is not. Nothing stops Teclis. I mean, as we say, it doesn't actually to say it says Teclis, Scenari Wizards, and Venari Wizards only. But there's language later on where it's like they're more than likely going to patch it. He knows these spells. Nothing stopping Teclis from casting Protection of Hysh instead of his signature spell to work on allied units. That's a big base to give at a 9-inch aura.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. Obviously, this is usually the most important spell you're trying to shut down in the Lumineth. Like Protection from Hysh, I know like people I think really hate Total Eclipse. I hate Total Eclipse. But when I have an auto unbind or something and I'm staring down a Lumineth player, there's only if they don't if they don't like single cast with Teclis and power out protection of some variety, that's catching the unbind every time. Okay? Because that is actually what makes them win. Yeah. Like this spell having a 5-up ward is what makes them win the game. If you shut this off, they will die. If you don't, they will not. It is pretty much that easy. Because they can bubble this massive ward save out to just so many units. Yep. It is a huge impact on the overall damage the army receives. Yeah. And yes, Total Eclipse should have been gotten rid of. I mean, like, I don't know how else to say it. It's everybody I've talked to, even the Lumineth players, are like, there's a Lumineth player in my group who did a write-up, and he's like, why is this still here?
There's a Lumineth player on this stream asking that question.
Right. Why is this still here like this?
I'm a Lumineth player. I'm asking the same question.
Yeah, like, it just, everybody, this has got to be as close as possible as to a thing you released that is universally reviled. Right? Nobody likes this. And you wrote a whole new book, and you cut a lot of NP, like full credit. They cut a lot of it out. I'm actually really happy with a lot of the changes. Okay? So I don't want to overstate this. But you took the worst thing and just were like, yeah, let's let this ride.
You look at it, yeah, that checks out.
Right, where you could have rewrote it in tons of ways. It could have still been something that messed with command point usage. There are plenty of armies that do that.
There is another spell in this book, Howling Gale, which I think it's like, if you keep that, if maybe move that to Lore of Hysh and change its name, I think that works a little better in terms of, like, you still have that, like mechanic of, like, manipulating who gets to use command points where in a way that I think is a little bit more sensible.
Right.
Like, a few people,
so let's just give people Howling Gale here, because Howling Gale is a spell that has a casting value of 8. This is out of the Lore of the Winds, by the way.
Yes.
And a range of 12 inches, so much shorter, not the whole table for no apparent reason. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster. That unit cannot issue or receive commands until your next hero phase. Cool. Very powerful spell.
Yes. Right? Some people are asking me, it's like, hey, was that in the old book? It's like, yes, you just didn't see enough people using it, I guess, or something like that. Like, yes, it's one of the ways that I stop, like, Gargants and whatnot. I mean,
sure.
Anyway, yeah.
Yep. When you look at the Lore of the Winds, Tom, I know you were always a fan of transporting Vortex. Yep. I think a lot of people slept on that and didn't use that the way that they could have, but you frequently had a Wind Mage in our armies when we were doing team games, because transporting Vortex is a good teleport spell you have access to. So casting by
I used it in so many games with Teclis. Like,
sure, that's Teclis.
I understand. Yeah.
I love the Wind Mage. I loved what he was. I'm a lot more mixed on him now.
Sure.
He used to be my superstar because of all the passive buffs that he would hand out and stuff like that. But
sure. But yes, basically, if successfully cast, you can pick one friendly LRL unit. So any Lumineth Realm Lords unit, which is cool. Could be anybody. Wholly within range, and 12 inches is a fairly generous bubble for this kind of a teleport effect. Remove them from the battlefield and set them up more than 9 inches away from enemy units. Can't move in the next movement phase. Completely standard teleport. It's great. You can move things around. You can move your shooters around. You need to get your sentinels into a different position or something. Hot should do. There you go. It's great.
Like, just a small anecdote for people who might be newer to the show, might not have seen me before. Teclis is my favorite Warhammer character. When I played 8th edition fantasy square bases, he was always banned. And so when they made him, his own model, made him a big monster. Once we started going to tournaments after like lockdown started to end, I used him constantly. Like I tried to use him in several events, and my using him maybe a little aggressively. I think people weren't used to like how like you can really get in people's face with Teclis, at least in the previous GHB. Really helped win my games. Some games I would just be Teclis and a few other models on the table. But like between this spell and certain of the other ones, which have not changed at all, basically, Teclis still has his most potent tools are all still here, effectively word for word.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you want to give a final shout out to Unbreakable Stoicism, also known as like Power of Heish or whatever, for Stone Guard? Spell that has a casting value of 7 and a range of 12 inches. If successfully cast, pick one friendly Stone Guard unit wholly within range and visible to the caster until your next hero phase. That unit's crushing blow ability causes mortal wounds on an unmodified hit roll of 5 instead of 6. Because why? Why, gentlemen, I ask you, would we ever have a unit in this army that only mortal wounds on a 6 to hit? The thing we've said 100 times has a problem because it's too good and scales too high. But this whole army is like, nah. Everybody, you know what? 6 is not good enough. 5s.
It's like, nah, hold my horn.
Right, 5s for everybody. You get a 5, you get a 5, everybody 5s. 5s all around. Who wants it? Meanwhile, the cruel boys are over here like, am I a joke to you? My spellcaster has to not cast spells and then feed my unit a potion to make this effect happen once.
Yeah. If there's just another thing to note, and this is for returning LRL players, the Horde Killer spell, our version of, I think it's not Infernal Gateway, but like the Gaunt Summoner spell, our version of that is gone. And the Bravery debuff, the Dragon Speech, the Voice of the Mountains, is also gone. So that's going to change a lot of tech for certain matchups that you need it, like versus Gargants or say Iron Jaws. You're gonna have to find another way to deal with those big monsters. You can't just like, I'm gonna debuff your bravery by 2 and then hold you in place.
Yeah, sure. No more goading, no more none of that. Yes, and I think we're all grateful for that. Okay, Michael, we will talk about it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Okay, let's talk about some great nations. The great nations of the Lumineth. Same 6 nations are here as what we had before. They're not quite a 7-nation army yet. Still just a 6-nation army, but we'll get there eventually. References. Okay, Ymetrica. Ymetrica is you're gonna see a fair amount of this in the new world. Prepare for these lists to start being rolled out and tried. Whether they'll be successful or competitive, I don't know. But you're going to get a lot of people trying them. Ymetrica has the same core ability it did before, which is it ignores Rend 1 and 2. That's it. It turns Rend 1 and 2. All your Alarith units normally turn Rend 1 into none. These guys turn Rend 1 and 2 into none if you're in Ymetrica. All your Alarith units. Again, Stone Mage, Cows, Stone Guard.
And they gain a bonus wound on their profile. And they can get a 5-up ward save.
Well, they're going to get a way better ward save than that. We'll talk about that on them when we get to them. Sure. Obviously, this one turns Stone Guard into Battle Line. So if you're in Ymetrica, you can actually just take the Stone Guard straight away as your Battle Line. We'll talk about them later on. So, cool. Good stuff. Perfectly fine. The great nation of Sire, CR. Let's go CR. Yeah. I know everybody calls it Sire, but I'm going to call it CR.
That's actually the correct pronunciation.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Did I accidentally stumble upon the correct pronunciation? Oh boy.
Yes, you did. So you have to change.
I got to rethink my life choices. Friendly CR units start the battle with 2 Aether Quartz reserve instead of 1. So, cool. Same thing. Basically same key ability they had before. So, fine. I don't know that it's worth it. We're gonna do our votes at the end. We're gonna go through all 6, gentlemen, and then we're gonna do our votes. Can I just talk about the fact? Here's a quick thing. This is just a little quick thing. Why do these guys get so much page space for this? Every sub-faction is half a page with the full color art. Most of the time, they can't be bothered to do more than like a little banner cutout, you know, with like their symbol. These dudes, they're like, nah, full art spread, luxuriate in the Lumineth. Like, the favoritism here, even in the, it bleeds through to the page layout.
Slanesh Cultist is mad.
Yeah, most people get like a symbol and like you're lucky you get a call out banner. You shut your face and you'll enjoy it.
No, they're very proud of this art, and it shows. They added new backdrops for each of these pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Normally there were no backdrops. It was
Right.
transparent. Like, because these are also, there is a T-shirt you can buy on the official licensed Games Workshop products, which has all of these different sub-faction like Venari on one T-shirt. So it's like they're very proud of these 6 character art pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bump. Next up, Elathia. Elatha? I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Once per turn, you can say that 2 friendly Elatha Venari units will use their Aether Quartz Reserve to use an Aether Quartz Reserve ability in the same phase instead of only 1. So the cool part here is this used to be their command ability, right? Which took a command point, and now it's just a thing you can do once per turn. So, cool. Good stuff.
Sarah, have you heard of Space Marines?
Well, no, she means within AOS.
I know.
And no, that's obviously Daughters of Cain. Lumineth pulling up a close second, but sure, it's obviously Daughters of Cain. As much luxury as heaped on these guys, it's not Daughters of Cain. Iliatha.
Iliatha. Ask Chuck.
Iliatha. Okay, cool.
This is Chuck's favorite army right here. Is
Got it.
Iliatha.
Yeah, cool. You know, obviously great if you're going like Warden heavy or something like that. Can be very, very potent. The Great Nation of Zytrek. Add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for Zytrek wizards. Boy, you can't go wrong with a good bonus, can you? You know, just the fundamentals. The fundamentals. Oh, it was CR's command ability. Oh, I didn't remember that. Okay, what did Iliatha use?
Yeah, Iliatha was a weird one where like you get if you use a command with 1 unit, another Iliatha unit within X amount of inches also gets to use that same command ability.
Oh, okay, got it. I had those 2 confused. I apologize. Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate it. And then our last 2, Alumnia. That's just the British pronunciation, Alumnia. If the base of each model in a friendly Alumnia Venari unit is touching the bases of 2 or more other models in the same unit, each model in that unit that is within 6 inches of an objective counts as 2 for the purposes of contesting that objective.
This is the one that I was thinking of.
Okay.
This is the cuddling sub-faction.
Yes. Okay. So we kind of got rid of the complexity of Shining Company to a degree, and then we were like, because it's simpler in its execution now. It's very easy to read and understand like what's going on. But then we were like, wait, can we get something more complicated back in here? But in simplest form, if all your Venari dudes are huddled close together, and there's enough of them that they can all be touching, with at least, you know, a triangle of people, you got at least 3 left, then everybody counts as 2. Okay, for objective holding. Cool enough. It's fine. It's completely uninteresting, and no one will take it, but thumbs up. And finally, the hottest of hot picks. Here we go. Get ready, baby. The Great Nation of Helon. Battle line wind chargers. You love to see it. And add 1 to the attacks characteristics of missile weapons used by friendly Helon units while they are within 6 inches of any enemy units. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Get ready, baby.
I do hope this is FAQ. That, or they just eat the Incarnate. Because I've seen this combo, and I'm like, we're overdue for the Battle Scroll, or the quarterly balance update, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And the way that you obtain this cheese needs to be.
Do you want to walk?
as you
Do you want me
said,
to take people through this combo real quick?
Go right ahead. I don't
Step
want
1,
to
put an
parse my-
incarnate in your army. Step 2, bind it to somebody who's going to die. Kill them intentionally. Roll an endless spell over them. Make it a lore seeker who starts 3 inches away and gets killed by something else. I don't care, whatever. Just get that wizard killed ASAP. Step 3, have that thing within 6 inches of 70 sentinels, but not fighting them. It's now an enemy unit. It just needs to be within 6 inches of your units, so it's sitting somewhere where it's near them. Okay? And then make 140 shots out of your sentinels. Profit. Kill the entire enemy army. I don't see the problem here.
Yeah.
And then they have to deal with the incarnate that's still right there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you just run him out in front, so you whatever. You get it. Because it just needs to be within 6 of the thing. So if one toe of one sentinel from the unit is within 6 inches of that incarnate, 60 shots, baby. Pew, 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 pew.
I think to be the guy that's going to poo-poo you, though, Vince. He's also probably going to have to. He's forced to charge that unit.
He is forced to charge things, but if you are properly moving him around, he will not be forced to charge that
What's going to be alive in your opponent's army after 140 sentinel shots?
Not much. That's the only problem. You've accidentally killed their entire army.
Yeah, and you also, you're going to end up, you just have to do, the Tiger Paw formation or something for Romance of the Three Kingdoms with all of your sentinels, and then you just kill your opponent. Yeah, please
now,
get rid
look,
of this.
Obviously, that's
God.
a goofball thing, and will get changed, I'm sure. And it's not even that. Who knows if people try this corner shooting jank? But I really hate it. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, I was being horribly sarcastic with this ridiculous thing. This is exactly the sort of thing I hate. The way that they designed this, the way they were thinking of it, right, was clearly your shooting units are running up, your wind chargers are running up and getting close and then popping off. Because 6 inches is a lot different than 3, which is what it used to be. Or your sentinels are sitting behind your wardens. They charge your wardens. It rolls to your turn and then pow, 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 right? Yeah. That's what they were thinking when they wrote this rule. Then they forgot about Dre. And so here we go. At any rate, it's a super powerful nation, regardless.
Yes.
Yep.
To me, what's your picks? I'm putting Helon at the top, given the current jank, and then Ymetrica right under it. What's your top 2? Martin, what's your top 2?
I have to. I absolutely have to put Zytrek up there in one of those 2 spots. It's reliable. If you're not taking Teclis, it's very desirable because it's going to just make sure your magic is the backbone of this army, regardless of your build.
Yep.
It turns on your most powerful buffs, and it helps you shut down most tricks that your opponent wants to do in that space, if they've built into that at all.
Yep.
And anything which provides a reliable army-wide, no conditions attached modifier to all of that, you're in business. Ymetrica up there as well, because you want those sexy yak attack and the Stone Guard to be as efficient as possible. Now, I think there is an FAQ question in here, and we were talking about that as we were discussing it, versus, of course, one of the current Boogeyman, Beast of Chaos. There is a FAQ question about how the stone armor interacts with stuff that modifies rend. But regardless of those, how that question is resolved, it's still a good ability. It works on your very efficient monster Warscrolls. It works on your core troops. Either one of those I'm in contention with. Helon, of course, it needs to. I'm sorry, I've used up my 2. I don't want to.
There's your 2. Tom, your 2.
Yeah.
While we are in this GHB, my 2 are going to be Zytrek and Helon. Once we rotate out of this GHB, I think that Alarith will gain, or whatever the one is. Yeah, Geometrica will gain footing when
there's no more bounty hunters.
When there's no more bounty hunters to make your guy, to make battle line be a disincentive.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. All right.
Because here's my gut is that I'll just give up that extra point of red negation to have 3 wound walls that bounty hunters don't get bonuses against.
Sure, I understand.
Like, I'll be one of the other ones.
Yeah.
And then just take all the rest of the bonuses and still run a bunch of Alrith. Like, that doesn't hurt me. Like, I could very happily be Zatrek, get a bonus to my Stone Mage cast and all that, and still be primarily Alrith. So, but I think that once Bounty Hunters leaves, that's when you'll have a shift over to Geometrica.
Okay. Let's talk about grand strats and battle tactics. Always my least favorite part of this, but here we go. We're gonna go through these. Lumineth grand strategies. They're fine.
Is it wrong that I didn't even read the page? I was like,
no, it's fine. They're fine. Like, these are actually fine. I don't mean that in a bad way. Yeah, they're not like the easiest thing, but they're not the hardest thing. They're all completely reasonable. Like, the Huracan Cyclone, you have to have 3 Huracan units within 6 inches of the same enemy unit. What a very obtuse thing to accomplish, right? Yeah. I mean, they're all very fast.
It has to be alive.
Yeah, like, you got to keep people alive. Allarith Aftershock is 2 or more friendly Allarith units contesting 2 or more objectives. That's actually quite reasonable because it's not even controlling, it's just contesting. And if anything's going to live through the fight in an LRL army, it is the Allarith units, so fine. Right. The Scenario Illumination is wild, and I cannot imagine ever taking that unless you can just set one Scenario model in the center of in the dead center of the battlefield and claim this, because they are then technically in each quarter. So, FAQ that.
No, you can't. I was about to say you can with the twins, but go on.
Sure. And then the Venari Assault, just no, definitely not. Never, ever, ever, ever. Are you going to complete this? That is wild. That is insane. 4 Venari units still alive. Have you met Venari units? They are what is chaff in this army. They die. Okay.
In the Age of Bounty Hunters, no thanks.
And yes, Artorias Rex, same as Show of Dominance, exactly. Battle tactics. Honestly, not that bad. It's not as bad as what we've discussed recently. They're not Zinch bad at all. Okay, like, they're doable, but these actually have some interaction, which I appreciate. Like, priority target, you pick an enemy monster, and you have to kill him with Star Shard Ballistas. Like, what a very specific thing. But okay, sure. But you can react to that. You know what I mean? Like, there are responses you will have. The Conserve Aether Quartz is probably the easiest one. That's probably the slam dunk. It's just like, pick your unit, kill an enemy unit, and don't use your Aether Quartz, which it's like, yeah, of course I'm not going to. Who uses their Aether Quartz on the offense? What kind of nonsense is this? Like, if I think my Wardens are going to chop down a unit, or my Sentinels are going to just blow some small unit off the table, why in the world would I be burning my Aether Quartz for +1 to hit? No, that's for later with +1 to saves. You guys understand how valuable +1 to save is, right? Like, we all understand, like, not you two. This is me talking directly to GW designers. You understand that +1 to hit and +1 to save are not actually equivalently good bonuses.
An army that doesn't need hit bonuses. 85% of its damage is on these mortal wound procs across the army.
Correct. It's even worse in this army. Yes, where it's just like you're rolling hot for 5s and 6s most of the time. Yeah. But that one's doable, of course. That one's very doable.
Sorry, go on.
blind the enemy. You complete this tactic if four or more spells are successfully cast with different friendly Lumineth Realm Lords units in this turn. Again, also doable, but it can be interacted with. You know, you can counter things, and people, like, if you run into a powerful anti-magic army, that can actually be rather hard to pull off, right? Depending on what you have in your list. So, great. I mean, if you've got Teclis, that's good for one, because it has to be different units, but sure, there you go.
No reason to take sidetrack, just do it reliably.
Yeah, sure. I mean, great in Zytrek, obviously. The Elemental Supremacy, sure, it's fine. I'm not even going to go into it. It's fine. Okay, you're going to pick it if you think you can do that specific thing against that specific hero, and they happen to be very wounded.
Yep.
Heish-Made Manifest is one you could actually actively try to accomplish, especially set up for, which is just 2 or more endless spells from your army on the battlefield at the end of the turn. They don't specifically have to be your spells. That is to say, they don't have to be LRL endless spells. They just have to be endless spells. This is an army that will take some endless spells quite commonly. So that one feels also quite doable. But again, you know, people can dispel endless spells and have all sorts of janky interactions with endless spells in the game, so fine. It is an interactive one. And finally, ignore the odds when you reveal this battle tactic. Pick one friendly Lumineth Realm Lords unit and one enemy unit that are within 1 inch of each other. You complete this tactic if that enemy unit is destroyed and the Lumineth Realm Lords unit you picked has not been destroyed. Again, fine. Why is it that whenever we bring odds into the name of a battle tactic, it becomes the eminently most achievable thing? Right? Like, against the odds, easy peasy. Oh, would you like a fun story?
Sure.
Just very, very quickly. I played a game this last weekend and failed against the odds.
Wow. Bold.
Now, do you want to know how I failed against the odds?
No, how?
Okay. So obviously against the odds is pick a unit and they have to be contesting an objective, right? Pick one of your starting units and it has to be contesting an objective. I was doing a test game with Suns to get some Suns experience in on the new book. This is just a quick aside. And my Giants killed too much of his stuff. And I wiped out a unit of 5 Redeemers. Okay? And he had a hero in my backfield that I was ignoring. And he called for aid and set up the 5 Redeemers within range of my back objective.
So you're just bad.
Yes, and I was like, that is hilarious. I did not see that happening. Because I kind of forgot that he had the command, right? The heroic command. Yeah. And so he was able to deny my against the odds, which I thought was really funny. Great game, great play, great move. Anyways, anytime you bring odds into it, it's not actually long odds, so cool. Yep. Martin, any final thoughts for grand strategies and battle tactics?
I've gone on long diatribes about how I think that these should be in the game in a different way. I'm glad
it's called the narrative section. Yes, I agree.
I do think the one where you have to be in 4 table quarters is a little fun. Like I don't know. There's fun ways to do tech with that, but it tickles me on the inside in terms of just like silly ways to achieve it quickly. I know that's not the way they intended it, but it's just unfortunately just how they write these things. I'm not sure why it's here, but yeah, that's just small nitpicks. Like the Alarith one is probably the easiest, and I think we're going to see it often because people are going to be taking Alarith armies. And actually, the grand strategies in the current GHB are all pretty hard for us, like Lumineth in general. So it's a nice change of pace. It's like you're no longer going to be like just at a deficit of VPs from some of these. I guess that's nice, but that's about it.
The important part here is no bonus points whatsoever on any of these battle tactics, so at least thumbs up for that.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and just as a quick aside, no core battalions in this book.
Yeah, no core battalions. I didn't skip them, folks. They just don't exist. Yeah. That is correct. All right, let's talk Warscrolls, shall we? All right. Teclis. Archmage Teclis. And Selenar, Spirit of Heish. Yes, that's right. Just T-posing all day. Yeah.
He's
So
Dark Souls memeing. He's praising the sun.
700 points. He got a little cheaper.
Yeah.
He still does what Teclis does. That is to say, he is still a mega caster. He can still do his either 4 casts at 10, 2 casts at 12, or 1 cast auto. However, that ability, his Archmage ability, has now been moved to his damage table, and he does lose some of that as he wounds up. You have to get him pretty wounded before it starts to actually matter. Like, he's got to be over 10 wounds or on or more.
Yeah.
But he does lose it, so okay, kind of an interesting thing. It's neat that when he is very wounded, he suddenly only has his 4 spells on 10. But yeah, he still adds 1 to cast, still has his Discs of Elementary, still has his Storm of Searing White Light still has to detect NATO, still has his big protection spell. As you mentioned already, Martin, it is now limited to Lumineth Realm Lords units, wholly within 18.
The other thing that changed is his movement. Normally, he started at 12 inches and his movement bracketed, but now it is at a flat 10 inches, which is interesting.
Which is awesome for that double move spell.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, I'm just like I have tiny violin for losing 4 inches off of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine. He's good. Like, he's a potent dude. He does good stuff. He makes your army basically magic proof. You know, Zinja's worst nightmare is rolling up against this guy if they didn't bring the shooting army. If they brought the shooting army, well, then it's a great day all day, because it's time to light Teclis on fire and then fill him full of holes. If they brought the all magic army, oof, that's going to be a rough day, as they just mortal wound themselves into oblivion, or just cast all their spells at the ground, or attempt to and then get countered. So, okay. Anything else to say about Archmage Teclis? He's basically still Teclis, but he's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
The Light of Eltharion. Glow up. This dude. So 240 points, 6-inch move, 8 wounds, 3-up save. He is still having his spirit armor. He ignores modifiers. He's basically ethereal, because he is a ghost. In addition, he halves the damage inflicted by attacks made with missile weapons or melee weapons that target him. So he has built-in coalesced Seraphon, but better. So fine. He is much more damage now, because he went up to base damage 3. This guy is a melee monster. This is one of the places we didn't simplify. I really, really, really love this model and love this guy's attacks and how dangerous he is. And I really, really, really hate the fact that we had to write 52 different rules for his 2 dumb weapons. Okay? That work completely differently for no reason. Like, this stuff he didn't need. At the start of the combat phase, for his 1 sword, his like less attacking sword, you can pick an enemy hero or monster, and if you do, then if you make those attacks against that hero or monster, they go to a damage characteristic of 2d3 instead of 3. Well, hot you do. An average damage increase of 1, so good stuff. Meanwhile, the Fang Sword, the other thing he wields, these aren't even printed in the order they occur on the War Scroll, which is like the tiniest thing that drives me crazy. Why would they?
Yes, it's in alphabetical order. That's the only. That's it.
I understand it's in alphabetical order. I don't.
No,
care.
like that's a poor excuse, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The Fang Sword, +1, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with this unit's Fang Sword if it made a charge move in the same turn. In addition, if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with the Fang Sword of Eltharion is 6, that attack causes 1 mortal wound to the target, in addition to any damage it inflicts. So somehow we managed to shove like 4 different weapon rules into 2 different paragraphs for 2 different weapons. Fantastic design, guys. Just really knocking it out of the park. When it could have just been one thing that was literally just like Eltharion gains +1 to wound against heroes and monsters, and 6 to wound to a mortal wound in addition. Done. Like, sure. End. Just it. That's it. See how much easier that was? That could have been all it was.
Nope, I like the glow up. I'm in. GW, thank you. I love it. I love all of his abilities. I love that he's punchy. I love that you can use Phoenix Stone on him now. He's my sexy little ghost elf.
I think over the weekend, mine is notoriously like 80-85% done. Like I tried actually, like I think you remember, like in our group chats, me trying to actually paint and do the true blending of like ghost armor of like all these greens and blues.
Sure.
And I never finished him because I used him in like a handful of games, and I'm like, oh, he's bad. And now I'm probably going to finish him over the weekend. I am genuinely thinking about taking him. If I don't take Teclis, I'm thinking about taking him and Wonder Twins in a list to Kansas City.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like him.
No, this guy's great. He's very good. In the battle of him against Sigvald, Sigvald does not come out the winner. Let me just say that. This guy is like so much stronger than him. It's wild.
Like,
those 35 points are doing a lot of work.
He's like, hey, Sigvald, how you doing, nerd?
Yeah, pretty much. That is absolutely true. But yeah, he's great. No, I like him too. I hate the complexity of those two sword rules. That's really what drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it's basically the same sword rules. They just made his damage better and lowered his points. It's like, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's good. Lyrior Uthrali. I don't know. At any rate, this guy, named guy on the on the rabbit antelope yak.
Can I talk to Games Workshop designers quickly about this one? Because
like this is hit me. What do you got to say about this dude?
This Warscrolls shouldn't exist yet. I get that there's a multi kit and like that this maybe this is an upgraded character, but like there's basically no lore for this model. Like
he's just teasing you with the Teclis to come, since he's one of Teclis's like lieutenants.
Tyrion. Like they have
Tyrion's lieutenant. Yes,
yeah. And like the rules on this unit are just they're bad in my opinion, and like they've made so much space for this model, which is not really necessary yet. He's supposed to be one of the key like magisters or something like again Tyrion's lieutenant. He's supposed to be like one of the key governing figures of the Lumineth in terms of their martial society, and I'm like, why is this here? The Lord Regent is such a good utility hero. The Lyrior is not bringing a lot to the table. I think that this model, like by the time we get to a next book and there's going to be like Tyrion and like Malarian is probably going to be a threat, which is like going to facilitate there being a proper 2.0 of this book. Maybe then he has a place, but right now I'm just not seeing it, and I think that yeah.
Tom, how you coming down on Lyrior, who's now 190?
I'd still not take him. I mean, like, there's just too much else that this army's competing to fit in, and he just doesn't make the cut. That's the challenge of Lyrior.
Yes, Eltharion is an empty suit of armor. He is cool. It's like one of the coolest models they've ever made.
Did a microscopic. I put a tree revenant head inside his helmet, and everyone was like, "Oh!" So I think I do think it needs like a face. But other than that, I really love the sculpt.
Cool.
So, yeah.
The Venari Lord Regent, if you liked the sculpt and want to use the guy but don't want to use the named version, here we are. 6 wounds, 3 up save, slightly slower. His yak antelope llama is tired because he only moves 14 instead of the other guy's 16.
I just used the sculpt with the head swap, and that was my Regent. That's what I used.
Sure. We got to talk. He's 170 points, by the way. Loses Demon Bane, obviously the big shooty lance, but we do need to talk about how this guy actually got a little damage boost. He got a little damage boost now, which is cool. So he's actually damage 2. Obviously, this guy is a frequent include because of his Purest Aether Quartz ability, where he's -1 to be hit all the time, and he's +1 to cast, meaning if he's running around in Zytrek, since he's untyped, normally he's suddenly +2 to cast, which makes it very easy to throw out Greater Power of Hysh and hit those D3 units, freeing up their spells for then other casts, and yada yada, the chain continues. So you can have your regular units throwing out, normal spells instead of needing to Power of Hysh themselves. He's good.
I will say that and one thing that was probably a little out of bounds, which I appreciate that they just took out, was he was tanking leagues above his weight class in Zytrek. If you cast Ethereal on him and gave him the amulet and Teclis was in your army, he was sitting on a 3-up Ethereal for a board, -1 to hit with his Zelda armor. And so he was able to take like a Maw Crusher on the charge to the face and take maybe 1 to 2 wounds, if that.
Right.
And that probably shouldn't be in your game. So while I will lament it's missing, like this character is going to die more often now, but like that's kind of what should happen. It is Warhammer. You don't want to like take a how many points is a Maw Crusher? Like
480.
Yeah, a 480 model was supposed to be one of the most best melee characters in the game. Just running up to this guy and doing like nothing. Something problem there.
Checks out to me. He's an Elven champion.
Sure. Yeah, Tom, what's your rate on this guy? Is he a take? Is he going to show up sometimes?
He's a staple for me, just because traditionally he has been, just because of the work he does.
Yep.
For both his flexibility as a utility piece, support piece, and a pinning tool. Yep. That's going to be because he lost the 4-up ward in Zatrek. That has really hurt him. Sure. I think he is going to be one of the first pieces to go if I'm migrating to Alrith.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. All right, let's talk about the guy probably you're not taking, the Venari Bannerblade. Big standard guy. Standard man, battle standard bearer. He still has
got better, but not a lot better.
Really? I thought you were going to be hot on him.
I'm really not. But tell me, what do you like about him? I mean, obviously he got the glow up a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Reroll charges.
Sure. Yep.
Like he reroll charges and he drops mortal wound bombs late in game. Like that seems like that is right up your alley. He sits in spot. He guarantees charges, and then late in game you pop off, remove a couple key pieces, thin a couple units, and then throw him in and to pin something. Like he seems like your type of tech piece, Vince.
Yeah,
he is the best candidate to go on the shrine. We can finally talk about this thing again. The shrine, the terrain piece. That's like the elephant James Cameron's floating island in the room. The Luminor shrine.
Sure.
Because
suddenly his 18-inch reroll charge things is massive coming off the base of the shrine. Yeah,
exactly, and because he's a totem, it's even modified even further by the fact that he's on the terrain piece, and so like if you wanted a dedicated model, if part of your strategy was using and abusing the terrain piece, this character is a good one to include in your army. I think, Tom, the rebuttal to reroll charges is outside of Avalanor and Wardens. Like, how often are you really in the need to get a dedicated charge off that you need to have a resource-free reroll charge?
Well, yeah, I mean that's exactly where I'm going. The reason I agree with you, it's a good set of rules. First of all, I don't like his banner pop. I don't like the way it works with the battle rounds. It works. I hate anything that wants me to use it in like round 4 and 5 when everybody's already dead and it's too late to change the game. Rerolling charges in a big aura is good. Don't get me wrong, but this is like the least chargy army ever. I almost don't want to charge with anything in this book.
Yeah, this one is another future proofing one. It's like wait for Tyrion, wait for whatever version of Dragon Princes and stuff like that, like when it matters. Right now, this is like it's fun. It's not necessary.
No, I'm not saying it's necessary, but I just expected Vince to be a lot warmer on this guy because of what he's doing.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I am cold. I am not hot. I am cold. He's 100 points, which is nice. He's cheap.
He's the cheapest hero in the book.
Yeah. Which that is good. That is a point in his favor. All right. Sentinels. The big Sentinels. Here we go. 150 points. 1 battle line for each 1 Wardens. They're Sentinels.
I have 2 words for you, Vince.
Go. I'm ready. Made in America.
Sun metal butter knives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's funny. I'm not saying it's good. I just think it's funny.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as of right now, what he is pointing to is that at the moment, all of this unit's weapons benefit from sun metal, not just their shots, as it's currently written, which is funny. They do their aimed or lofted, 18 or 24 inches, not 30 anymore. They don't ignore line of sight. Okay, cool. Shining Company, which obviously all of the Venari, Sinari, Alarith, all of those rules were moved onto the Warscrolls themselves. So Shining Company is here, and now we'll just look at its new wording, and it'll be true for everything. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target this unit if the base of each model in this unit is touching the bases of 2 or more other models in the same unit. So just get close. Cool. They still have Power of Heish, so they can still go to 5 up with their shooting, which is how you're actually using them. And now the way the Scryhawk Lantern works is you get 6 inches to the range characteristic of your lofted bows, so the long shot, the 24-inch shot. If you're within, not wholly within, just within 12 inches of any other friendly or any other sentinels or ballistas. Cool. I like linear incentives to take more shooters. That's fun. It's a good incentive. Put them back on 30 inches. Obviously, the loss of Lambent Light is a big loss to these guys. Good. It's not a bad thing. Lambent Light was toxic.
Well, it feels like a power pair setup, right? That you could go with like a unit of these guys and a
yeah, here's my power pair. Sentinels and more Sentinels. It's an awesome power pair.
Yeah, the bolt thrower. No,
yeah.
Obviously the problem with like the Lambent Light and everything was you were, I think, breaking the intended like win condition. I think because they were Games Workshop was designing this based on a combined arms army, where every aspect of your army is working together to succeed your win condition. Whereas with Lambent Light and certain combos, you were activating a Rube Goldberg machine for your Sentinels to nuke 1 unit a turn. Yeah. And as I get that they are elite, but they are still high elf archers by proxy. I don't think they should have been nuking 1 unit a turn. So I'm glad that they kept most of their teeth without like the whole periscope thing was a little silly. Like where I can just see behind walls and whatnot.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, the reason I made the joke about the sun metal butter knives is actually it is better wording across the Warscrolls, especially when we talk about wardens, in that the unit champions, despite having different equipment, can now do the same output. You don't have to roll for them separately. That was taking an additional dice roll, which usually amounted to either the same wounds or nothing. Now you don't have to really separate those attacks when you're making them, at least when you talk to the get to the wardens. Here I think there's just a misprint where they just are missing a sentence where this only applies to the unit's ranged attacks or something like that.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Sentinel spam is necessarily the best way to go still. It's just interesting. I
right.
Maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. I don't know. I don't have a particular vote on that. It's still certainly potent even without Lambent Light, but I'm not sure it will get there without Lambent Light, and good. It's just interesting that they chose a iterative mechanic for the Sentinels, because they could have had the Scryhawk Lantern add the bonus range if they're within 12 inches of like a unit of Wardens or something, and that would have played into the mixed arms thing that they wanted to have going. It's funny that they picked be close to another famously spammed shooting unit that was the problem last time this army came around, right?
Yeah.
So whatever. Ballistas got better, so I mean maybe we will see more ballistas. I hope so. They're a neat unit. Okay, speaking of wardens, here they are. Wardens. They're wardens. They still basically work like wardens. They're 150 points in their battle line. They're both your chaff and somehow the wizard. And there you go.
It surprises me that they keep raising the points cost on this unit.
Sure.
I get that when they started at either 125 or 130, they were point for point some of the best elite infantry in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they wanted that, but I would have hoped that they didn't get this expensive. That points cost combined with our age of bounty hunters, I am as cold on wardens as I have ever been.
Sure.
I am glad they got rid of the weird hand grenade rule.
I agree.
It was baffling. Like, if they had added that back into the unit's damage output in some way, I think some people, like more people would have been okay with it, but it was still, it's like, why did you write this rule? Because the unit champion sculpt is holding this thing. It's like, oh, that should have rules. Why? Like, I'm sorry. It was funny in that it existed at all, but that's not necessarily mean that it's a good thing. And I think that's all I have to say on it.
I agree with all of your points. Tom, anything to add?
I was really liking Wardens at the end of the last kind of cycle. It's disappointing that they, like, the meta combined with the points and all of that have really hampered them. And it really pushes you to look for your battle line elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've probably only got a couple months left, hopefully, on this being a thing. So, you know,
we'll see.
If Bounty Hunters goes away, Wardens become a very different proposition. So we'll see.
No, I have a feeling the list that I'm taking to Du Bois, which is famously like a Shark Tank style tournament in November, it's going to be a very different list than what I take to LVO at the end of January, beginning of February.
I agree with you completely, Assistant Ref. The Harrower says, in a world where gut rippas are 180. I mean, yeah, think of all that. Look at that value you're getting for 30 points. You get twice as many wounds. I mean, geez. What would you complain about? Seems like a square deal to me. Hashtag sarcasm. Okay, so.
Yes. That's a gut rippa problem.
Yeah, Dawn Riders. They're still Dawn Riders. They still do what Dawn Riders do, which is they want to go fight.
Did not change.
Nope. 1 and 2 wound models. They are 140 points. You get 1 unit as battle line for each 1 unit of Wardens. But they're still Dawn Riders. They act like Dawn Riders. They do what Dawn Riders do. The biggest limitation of Dawn Riders continues to be the same thing that's always been the limitation of Dawn Riders, which is that people don't play 1 and 2 wound models very often, and if they do, they're just chaff, and it doesn't matter. You had other ways to get rid of them. You didn't need a bunch of extra attacks to pick up the Blood Reavers or whatever the nonsense is that happens to be standing in the way.
They are the bane of Flesh Eater Quartz armies. For those
sure, just like if you happen to run into ghouls or zombies or skeletons or clan rats or Night Haunt, I guess, as a whole.
Yeah, or all of Night Haunt, yes.
Yes. The one truly highly competitive army right now that does flood the board with a ton of like 1 and 2 wound infantry, where where Deathly Furrows will yield some pretty A+ results in that regard. So, sure. All right, keep going. The Ballisti. How did they say it in Warhammer Online? Tom, do you remember?
I don't.
I believe it was Ballisti, is how it was said, or something like that.
Oh. English.
At any rate, the Star Shard Ballista. Okay. I'm gonna go to you, Martin. What's your take on this thing at 130 points?
It's good. Actually, famously in the old economy, the previous iteration of this book, 1 ballista mathed out to the equivalent of 10 archers. So sure. If you did not want to take an extra 10 archers, you could take 1 of these. Now, I believe it maths out because of without Lambent Light, it's a little better. I'd have to get into the decimal points on that one. I'm sure someone would, either Season of War.
I mean, obviously, if you're targeting a monster, it ends up being stronger because it moves up to damage 3 instead of D3. Yes.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, I was just like holistically, like the
sure.
average of like wound output of something like this.
I love it. Like
I think it's a more attractive option than it was previously. Again, because not of other things, but because of that math versus War Sentinels. It the only thing that I don't like about it is that it really can't move, and sometimes with a Lumineth army, at least in how I play, you want the ability to pick up swaths of your army and either teleport
Sure.
them somewhere else or be able to rapidly redeploy to counter where your opponent's going. And the ballista can't really do that. But that's its only downside. Everything else, it's like good on it.
Yeah, I mean, 36-inch range is nothing to scoff at here, right? That's a heck of a range.
I like it as the second in a power pair with Sentinels. Like, I would do a pair of those two things together.
I'm gonna get a charger for my phone. I'll be back in 10 seconds.
And I would even consider doing like a 20 block of Sentinels and the ballista. And so if the Sentinels fluff the roll, then the ballista takes its shot.
Sure.
Otherwise, the ballista can split off and try to pick off a hero or something.
Okay.
So I think there's some really good utility, and it's cheaper than a second unit of archers.
Yeah, I think you will see this on the table. That's what I'll say. Like, I think it will find maybe one, but I'm not sure if you'll see more, but I think you will see one in many lists.
Yeah.
I love all the people joking about the title for Keen-Eyed Artillerists. Is that a normal person? No, that's a monster. Good eyes, sir. Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Tom, we're going back to you, brother, for the thing you have to be excited about. Because Venari Blade Lords, it's cue the Aladdin theme music. It's a whole new world for these guys. You've been hot on this terrible unit for a long time. It always underwhelmed. It was consistently bad. Its only real purpose was when you were occasionally able to cheese it as a bodyguard unit. It never actually did anything in offense.
I mean, Zach will tell you, it did work against Squigs. Did some work, son.
Tom, this is one of the worst history rewrites I've ever seen. Let me state what you actually did, Tom. You attacked with your Blade Lords into a unit of Squigs, regular things that don't have an armor save.
Hoppers. They were Squig hoppers, to be exact.
No, they were Squigs. It was Squigs on foot. That was what you attacked into, and you didn't kill the unit. You made like 27 attacks and failed to kill the unit. I remember exactly because I was like, all right, I'll come help you.
This unit is like, at least before, and first of all, I appreciate that they crammed every, this is a brick of text, this horse.
Yeah, I had no place to put the 130 for what points. So real quick, let me get through the basics here. These are obviously 2 wound guys on a 4-up save. They're 130 points. So basically you're getting 10 wounds for 130.
Yep.
Because they come in units of 5.
Yep.
You get 1 unit battle line for each 1 Sonari hero you have.
Yep.
The relevant thing to talk about with these guys...
They can be.
Can be. Yes, don't have to be. Yeah, excellent point in the current season. So, they still have their, fight in 2 different ways thing. Okay, but now it's not measure the models anymore. It's just add to the attacks based on the number of models in the target unit. So, big thumbs up there. Please just yeet into the ocean anything that says measure the number of models within range.
It's a War Machine rule. It's just do not put War Machine rules in this game.
It is an especially garbage rule on an infantry unit where you have to then be like, okay, this guy and this guy and this guy, that shouldn't pass development muster for 5 seconds. But anyways, so good change. A+. I'm very positive. And they got Sunmetal weapons now. Real Sunmetal weapons. Their Sunmetal weapons are real boys and not just normal swords that they painted gold because they felt bad.
I'm so excited. I love that they have real weapons now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, they are not a wizard, so they cannot Power of Heish themselves. But other people could. So, for example, the previous dude we mentioned on the Antelope Llama, your regent, he could toss him a little. He could toss him a little greater Power of Heish love and get him on a 5-up. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Anyway, there are 2 types of swords.
Yes, there are 2 types of swords. They can flurry and make a bunch of attacks, either 2, 3, or 4 attacks, or they can make one perfect strike. You're basically gonna most often go for the make a flurry of attacks because you're like in most situations it's going to be more beneficial. Many units you fight are 5 but not 10. It's a very common unit size sort of in the world, and so getting 15 attacks where you're fishing for mortals on 5s or 6s ends up being a pretty good payoff. Arturia said, did they delete the 4+ spell ignore only because they ran out of space in the page?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Like,
we can give Sentinels and Wardens their own page where we just waste most of the space. That's fine. But these guys, you get a half a page and you like it. That's correct. Tom, are you excited about the Blade Lord glow up?
I am, although there's something really funny about this to me.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess not. It doesn't matter. No, I am excited. I'll just say that. I am excited. I love it. I love playing this unit before. I'm going to still play him. I love that the Sun Metal weapons actually like proc mortals. I couldn't have asked for more, right? Like that's one of the that that was my big complaint. That just felt so disjunctive.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still gonna run them. I mean, like not in every army. Like it obviously the composition has to be right. But
sure. Again, another unit that's going to get actually way more interesting after this season ends, because when they don't suddenly, when their 2 wounds actually matter again, because everybody is not 2 damage against them, you know, that's pretty good. Yes, they do have Shining Company as well, and they, as I said, they are still bodyguards. They can guard Scenari units and take their wounds. So
yeah, I am not painting another 5 of these yet, but I think I might as we get closer to the end of this GHB.
I think I have 10 painted, and I'm happy with that 10, those 10.
Like, yeah, but I take as long as Vince to paint compared to if I have to compare how long I paint between Vince and Tom for models, just in terms of just a broad thing, it's closer to Vince. So it's like if I want to paint 5 Swordmasters, that's like
yeah, I did this since yesterday. Rawr, rawr.
Yeah, it's probably like 3 weeks of work on those 5 models, unfortunately.
Yeah. That seems reasonable. All right. Yeah, I agree. These guys are way more interesting after the new season, but they've got some gas in the tank. I think they feel more like what they should be as Blade Lords now. Like I'm with them. Yeah. My Lumineth player has loved these guys since they came out. He is a high elf player since the mid '90s, and these guys really hit for him. He loves the aesthetic and loves the look, so I know he's excited about this change as well.
Yep.
So people missing the 4+ spell ignore. Your army usually has it when you're playing Teclis anyway. I don't know why you. I'm not really lamenting its loss for the time being. Hopefully, when they put this on its own page, they give it back.
And yes, Ryan, you are correct. You don't have to make them GVs if you don't have a Scenari. Yes, that is correct. And as we mentioned, it is an optional thing.
But you did gain. The Shining Company.
You did.
They always had Shining Company.
Well, it's on the scroll now, at least.
Yes, but I mean, like
you have Shining. You were Venari before. You're Venari still. You have Shining Company. Yeah. Like it's a good unit. Okay, Cathalar couldn't be more excited about this change. 110 points. She became a very cheap hero, and we got rid of the dumbest thing that everybody forgot and I hated, and it's gone. Ding, dong.
Who forgot? Who forgot what she did? That's what I want to know.
It happened at a very inopportune time. Most LRL players, Tom, I watched you forget it in a game.
I've never run her.
You have run her.
No, I don't own that model.
Okay, that's fine. Then I'm thinking otherwise. But I watch LRL players forget it all the time. Go ahead, Martin.
So in a game, I played against Knights of the Inner Circle, and it was 6 Farengard, which was like, how many points is that? 560 points, or at least it was at the time, or something like that.
Sure.
And he killed 14 spearmen or wardens.
Sure.
And I killed 1.
Farengard, yeah.
And I had Total Eclipse up, so he couldn't use a CP to ignore Battle Shock. And I rolled 1 dice, and on a 2 up, I deleted his unit. I don't know in any universe where that should be a thing.
Out of a 100-point hero, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was scary. I mean, she was 130 before. Come on now.
Yeah, sure. All right, let's get into the deets here. What changed
Mhm.
about her is, so this is the first time we've seen a Scenari. So let's talk about deep thinkers because they all carry this rule basically. This
I like the
replaces,
rule.
as do I. I actually like this change a lot. This replaces the old contemplate rule, which the Scenari got in like book, I don't know, 3, let's say. And effectively now, instead of having to sit there and be like, and then next round you get to cast on a 9, now all your Scenari people can just once per battle, when you attempt to cast your first spell in that phase, you can say it's automatically cast with a casting roll of 9 that cannot be modified, but it can be unbound. So
I love it.
you can just cycle through a couple rounds of Total Eclipse automatically, for example. That would be perfectly doable. Auto powering it out on the 9. I mean, yes, they get to unbind, but like, okay, whatever. It is on a 9. It's not modified, so like if you're in Zytrek, it doesn't go to a 10. That's an important thing to understand here. It's just a hard 9. But 9 is a relatively rough thing to unbind. Unless they have big bonuses to unbind, the chances of rolling a hard 10 is not high. So we're going to see that rule repeated multiple times. She's still a single caster, yada yada. Her Absorb Despair, which used to be this thing that was in the Allegiance abilities, I guess because they didn't want it to transfer if she allied somewhere. I don't know why you would put it somewhere else. Maybe they just ran out of space and shoved it into there. I'm not sure. But either way, now it's on her scroll, which is just she can take the sadness when they use the Aether Quartz out of them. So she prevents the -1 bravery and gives it to an enemy unit. So that still happens. What she cannot do is modify their battle shock test anymore by a number equal to what they killed. So you can't just suddenly slap like, 20, 30 battle shock onto a unit and then have them implode. And her spell, Darkness of the Soul, still good, but it's fine. It's still relatively
You lost the ways to make it
yes.
so reliable that you could turn her into a mini Bellacore.
Correct.
You can
Yes.
you can still do it, but like the whole and you would have to use it in combination with a Lore of the High Peak spell, Voice of the Mountains.
Yep.
Which is gone. And so one of our hardest matchups, which is Sons of Behemoth, relied on you using that spell in combination with the Mountain spell to turn off one of the Gargants every turn. And while it's still on the table, you can now play around it reliably. But you don't get to do that anymore. You have to find a new way to beat that army.
Yep. This lady was always like the number one when I fought, because I fought Lumineth with my sons a couple of times. This lady always on the table, always catching rocks. Like touch grass, okay? Because let me tell you what, all rocks are incoming at this lady. I got no patience for her. Okay. But yeah, that's her. She's 110. She's still interesting enough, but I don't think you'll see her as often. She's fine. She is what I would call fine. Cenarian Lightner. 170 points. Expensive. But double caster. Double unbinder. Has the Deep Thinkers. Has this rune that whenever you cast a spell from the Lore of Hysh and that spell is not unbound, you can roll a dice after the effect of that spell has been resolved. On a 3+, you can immediately resolve the effect of that spell for a second time, but you can't pick the same target that was picked. All right. So, and then her spell is like not very good. Let me just say that, but whatever.
Yeah.
She has a bad spell.
It's
The
what
question
we-
immediately becomes, what can we double tap? So we're going to just spin back up here into the Lore of Hysh.
I've been thinking about this Warscroll since it was like first made public. I'm still trying to understand. It's like, what is the point of this character? And I guess the only thing is, what can we double tap? And it's not even reliable. It's a 3-up. You're not always gonna. Yeah. I am not as hot on her as I thought I would be.
So remember, she can only double tap out of the Lore of Hysh. So what can you double tap? Well, Speed of Hysh.
Overwhelming Heat.
Yep. She can double tap Speed of Hysh, which is fun. You can make 2 units double move. She can double tap Overwhelming Heat, which is actually quite a good thing to double tap. Like, that's a great offensive spell to put on 2 units. Sapping, having the move of 2 different units is actually quite good. She can double tap Solar Flare, which is interesting. She can just pick a slightly different point on the battlefield, I guess. And so that's fine. Protection, nothing there. Total Eclipse, nothing there. There's no point to that. Can use Solar Flare twice, hitting 2 different points, but ends up hitting the same unit. As I'm reading it now, Chris, yes, I believe you can. Because that's not
just the point on the battlefield. They can be like
Correct.
1 molecule apart, and they're different points of the battlefield.
Exactly, which is the target of the spell. The target is the point on the battlefield. The unit is being hit incidentally. Mm-hmm. Okay. And she can Ethereal Blessing twice, though I'm not sure you would actually want to. Can she double tap through a spell portal? I don't know any reason why she wouldn't, but the first spell would still trigger it, but I'd have to go look. I don't think the second spell would go through it, because I think the spell portal specifically says only 1 spell. She's just getting a second cast, which means it couldn't go through. I think that is off the top of my head.
I think you are correct, Vince.
Well, it says you're resolving the effect of the spell. You're not resolving another spell. So because it's the effect of a spell, the original spell was cast out of the portal. So that spell resolving is revolving a second time. I think she would get two picks out of the portal.
Okay, yeah. It's an interesting thing. Like, that'll probably, like, if she double taps, it doesn't say it's cast again. Right. So, yeah, you might be right.
Same spell.
Yeah, you might be right. That's okay. I can see that. It's interesting. Yeah, cool. That's a good FAQ question. I hadn't thought about it. Good question there, Cody. Yeah, I think she's super cool. Beautiful model. I think she's cool. I like her at 170, honestly.
I'm gonna do some cool things with that base sculpt eventually. Like, I'm not in a rush to pick it up. I know you can't really pick it up on its own, but I know a few people who have one, and I'm like, do I really want to make it right now? Because me and my Lumineth characters. I already have the plans and what I want to do, like reposing, some minor kit bashing, sculpting.
Nice.
Sorry,
Tom. What's your vote on the Enlightener?
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. The Caligrave. Okay, this dude actually got a glow up. So
you can't go anywhere when you start at the bottom.
This is true. This had to be the worst hero originally, right?
Yeah.
And his Realm Scribe ability is still like whatever. I don't even care. It's still a Battle Shock Immuni thing. That also can add to like casting and stuff. But it's still very, 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 very unreliable until later into the game. So I don't care. But he is only 115 points. And Erasure is changed a lot.
Good now.
Yes. So Erasure used to be you cast a spell and you can mark somebody and do nothing. Or you can do a D3 Mortals. But if you hit somebody with it who's marked, then you do a D6. And I'm like, who wrote the math on this? Who doesn't understand that 3.5 is less than 4? I would like to speak to you about numbers. Okay? But that's not how it works anymore. Now, you can either choose to do the D3 straight away, or you can mark them, and if you hit a marked target, it's 2d6 mortal wounds, and they're no longer marked.
Yes, please.
That's a big difference. That's a lot of mortal wounds. I mean...
You know who's sad about this guy?
Who's that?
The Mortis Night Haunt Reader.
Oh, sure.
That does 2d6 once per game.
Sure. Well, technically, this guy only does it twice a game if you want to feel better about it.
Why?
You got to wait a turn.
You got to wait a
turn.
turn.
Only 5 turns.
Yeah, they're only 5. Round 1, you mark. Round 2, you erasure. Round 3, you mark. Round 4, you erasure. Round 5, profit, I guess. you just do the D3. There ain't a 6th casting phase. So, but yeah, I mean, what you're doing is you're taking a guy who, hopefully, twice a game, you're going to power out 2d6 mortal wounds on. Mm-hmm. That's why you took this guy. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. So the question is,
And it's 24-inch range.
Yeah, with a 24-inch range. It is not a small range, right?
Yep.
This guy plays awesome on the double, right? Because you can then erase and then roll right into it. So the question is it worth paying 115 points for a dude who twice a game does 2d6 mortal wounds? That's the question you need to answer.
I mean, yeah, right?
Maybe. I think my answer is maybe. I'm really not sure what to think about this guy. Setup stuff is always tough because in erasing and marking somebody, you can also then end up having him get picked as a target and he could be killed before he can bring it to culmination. But is that a bad thing if they're wasting time trying to kill your Caligrave? Like, is that actually a good thing because they're not shooting at something else or whatever? You know, I don't know. I've gone back and forth on this guy a lot. I will say he'll scare the living crap out of people. When you say I mark that hero, next turn I'm going to do 2d6 mortal wounds to him, people will respond to that. That is a very frightening thing to say.
Yeah. And it still happens even if the opponent kills the Caligrave, right? Or does that I don't see the
No, you have to hit them with a spell again. So
okay.
But if you have a different Caligrave, it still works.
That's true. That's why you take 2. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. So, like, he does also unlock Blade Lords. That is correct because he has a Sonari hero. All these Sonari heroes will unlock Blade Lords. A Blade Lord unit in his battle line if you like. Yeah, I'm back and forth on this guy. I think I want to see him in action more. Is my answer. I think there could be potential here. Okay, he is cheap. He's not banner guy cheap, but 115 is pretty cheap in this army.
Yes.
And that's quite a lot of mortal wounds at a very good range. So, yeah, I'm tentatively in for this dude. Tentatively. That's what I'll say. All right. The Lore Seeker. 160 points. No longer unique. 6 wounds and a 4-up save, like our toughest Sonari hero, as it were. He has Deep Thinkers as well. They're all Deep Thinkers. All the Sonari people. Even Heavy Armored guy. Still has Lone Agent. +1 to save as long as he's 9 inches away from all friendly units. He can still set up in enemy territory, and he still can auto-take objectives. However, this guy had a big change. In payment for his "you're not unique anymore," now, instead he just counts as, if he sets up within 6 of an objective that isn't contested, he counts as 10 models for the purposes of contesting that objective. So he will still start the game controlling it, if it can be controlled, like assuming it's not something that has to be contested, controlled, blah, blah, blah. But now he's 10 models. He's a Stonehorn. He's a baby giant. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom, you abused the heck out of the Lore Seeker. It used to be, by the way, that you kept control until he died. That's the big change.
Yep.
You loved abusing this guy. Are you still a buyer on this guy at 160?
I don't know, man. It's tough.
That's a fair answer. It's a big change.
I would have it would depend on the build. He is not an auto include anymore.
Okay. Martin, where are you living with him?
Yeah, same thing. Like, it is no longer a. I think he's one of the main ways that you create anti-Iron Jaws tech.
Yep, he is like the best anti-Iron Jaws tech. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I think I still need to take one, especially in like the northeastern meta where you're going to have like an excellent player. If you're doing moderately well, you're going to play into an Iron Jaws player, and you need the ability. You need to buy time to make sure that they can't Mighty Destroyers turn 1 charge your entire army with their army, and this character gets you there in ways that no one else will. That being said, bringing back the Blade of Leaping Gold, I also was hoping that we could have some fun with like the builds in terms of what artifacts and like maybe some traits or something, or like the spells. I mean, you can give him Flaming Weapon now, even without Blade of Leaping Gold. you can set this character up as a relatively expensive assassin on top of their objective ability. If you teleport them via Waystone or the Wind Teleport spell, you can get them in ways you can really put them up there. I believe that re-triggers the ability again. I don't know if they changed it where it's like it's no longer like the beginning of the game setup. It's still
it is
setup.
the beginning of the game setup only because it's
Okay,
if you
yeah,
set up
so
a
they
friendly lone agent reserve unit within 6 inches of an objective.
All right, that makes sense then. Yeah. Because that was always a thing where it's like, hey, I'm teleporting again. I can now control this objective, and you can't take it. But anyway, the point being is that you could still use the lone agent ability to make him an assassin, sort of. But yeah, most of the potency and why you would take this outside of the Iron Jaws matchup is kind of gone.
Agreed. Yeah, he's like a 6 to me still. Like, he's interesting. He is still a very versatile piece, and I do value versatility. He's got a decent ranged attack. He has a spellcaster that can start like danger close. He was a popular guy to take Lambent Light for obvious reasons and just like show up and Lambent Light people. Obviously, that's gone, but he can still show up. He does still have Deep Thinkers, so he could power something out relatively close to them, like an Endless Spell or something. So sure, like there are still he is still a piece that could be used as part of many clever strategies, which is why I still put him in the positive column.
He will, if your opponent is not careful, this character will solo your support heroes.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He's certainly tough enough for that.
I am not a well, unfortunately with Zytrek they took away the ability where all of the characters know an extra spell. So maybe I wouldn't take Flaming Weapon, but it's a possibility.
I mean, if you were really trying to gum up the enemy army, I could see a strat around like the Enlightener double tapping Overwhelming Heat and him setting up the Rune of Petrification, which still double taps and slows movement and stuff in the middle of their army, where you're just like really gumming up the works in their army very early on, right? To where they're just like not moving at all. So I could see that kind of thing, that kind of a strat. Like, again, that's why I like him, because he does enable those kinds of unorthodox builds, right? So, okay. Cool. Alarith, Spirit of the Mountain.
Did we skip the Wonder Twins?
Oh, did we? Did I skip a page?
I don't know if he's in your PDF.
Oh, did I miss the picture?
No, they're later. They're later.
They're later. Okay, cool. Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
cool.
then.
No problem.
Continue with Olar.
Alarith, Spirit of the Mountain, 14 wounds, 3 up save. Cow Mountain, non-named Cow Mountain, generic Cow Mountain, as it were. Yep. Is a totem now, so yay, he can issue commands at quite a long range, so that's cool.
How?
What's that?
How?
He's a totem.
Totems
can issue command. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
At 18 inches, just being a totem allows you to issue commands. Hence why the just you don't have to be a hero. You just have to be a totem.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like it needs elite status or something like that, but no, I got just a totem. Totem helps. There we go.
Yep, he is a totem now, which makes sense. He's a big dude. That's cool. Big Hammer is still Big Hammer. Big Hammer still does a lot of damage. You know, it is what it is. It is 4 attacks at 3s, 2s, -2, rend 5 damage. It does a lot of damage. And if he doesn't charge, make it 5 attacks. So, cool. So, that's fine. He still has his little pick out a unit and give him -1 to hit thing in both the shooting and combat phase. So that's cool. Again, he has built in on his scroll, turn rend 1 into rend nothing. If he's in Ymetrica, it's rend 2 into rend nothing. And he can add 1 attack to Alarith Elf units, so he can make Stone Guard. I like how that's future-proofed, just in case we print more Alarith Elf units in the future, right? We didn't just say Stone Guard like we did earlier in the book.
Well, you can also do it to the Stone Mage.
You could, yes, but you're not. But yes, you can also give your Hammer Bros +1 attack, which is cool. And he can use that command D3 times in the same phase.
Yep.
But doesn't spend additional command points for it. So it's cool. And he always fights he also always fights the top of his damage table if he is near a stone mage. So,
It's
which
like
was
the
an old
best
ability,
rule.
but it's still there. Yes.
It's the best rule on this war scroll. It's the best rule on both of those war scrolls.
It's pretty great because it keeps him hitting hard. Him down at like damage 3 or 2 is a much less scary scroll than him being at damage 5. So kill his little buddy. All right, Alarith. I want to jump straight to. We're gonna skip those two and come back to him because I want to jump straight to Avalenor. I want to talk about these two at once. Okay. So Avalenor, 16 wounds, also a 3-up save, 6 attacks with his hammer, but he's on hammers. Sorry, because he gets the 2. However, 3's 3s instead of 3's 2s. Neg 2 rend, not neg 1 rend anymore. That rend bump on him is deeply appreciated in the save stacking meta, and still damage 5. His neg 1 to hit is a big aura. It's not a single unit. Still has enduring. Still has the +1 attack when he doesn't charge. He still does mortal wounds on hit rolls of 6, like everybody in this freaking army. So good stuff. His is an addition. He also fights the top of his profile, and he also has Unshakable Faith of the Mountains, the command ability that gives your stone units, your stone elf units, +1 to attack. He can just do it straight 3 times, not D3. Okay. And this guy's 420 points.
Yeah.
Obviously, he is also a hero. And
I have one question. After that, I have thoughts.
All right. Hit me.
So the first question is, the question is his command ability. So it's like this unit can issue this command up to 3 times. If it does so, this unit can't stack. Can you give this to the same one Stone Guard unit?
No, it says the same unit cannot benefit from this ability and the Faith of the Mountains ability in the same phase. Oh, you're saying like, can you just stack on the same unit? No, because it does not break. It is not giving you the ability to violate the core rule of no unit can receive more than 1 command in a phase. Sorry.
Thank you. That other than that, I think this is in contention. Granted, it requires the Stone Mage to be near it, but because of that, this is, in my opinion, one of the best monster war scrolls now in the game. It needed that Ren too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that, Vince? No?
No, I completely agree. Okay. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
The fact that you can double tap his Geomantic Blast now as well.
Yes.
The fact that, you're right, he's Ren too. I mean, the thing holding this guy back is the same thing that's always held him back.
6-inch move.
6-inch move and no mortal wound protection.
Yeah. But like even with this the Stone Mage thing, his aura is always going to be at maximum.
Yep.
You have to do 16 wounds to him before he is doing less than like 30 damage.
Yeah. Like this dude lifts units.
Yeah.
The Sons of Bahamut preview for next week. The Sons of Bahamut are jealous just jealous AF of this guy's melee profile.
Yeah. You're a giant. I'm a mountain.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are now 5 damage attacks in the Sons of Bahamut, so thank God for that. We actually found how to make more than to make clubs the size of Buicks do more damage than an ogre's fist. So, I'm excited about this wondrous invention of technology. But nobody in that book who does that kind of damage makes 7 attacks. And this dude does.
Right.
And has synergistic buffs all over the place for him. Like,
it
slaps. Yeah.
It's I can't say enough good things about this model. You're going to see it a lot, even outside of Geometrica stuff. Like, and the range on Stone Mage Symbiosis is so liberal. Like, you don't have to be near it. You just have to be in the same zip code. And this guy is swinging for...
Yeah, it's not even wholly within. It's just within. Yeah.
Well, it's wholly... I was about to say it doesn't really matter because they're individual models, but yes, I understand. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, again, it's a little more space. It's a little more distance, right? Yes. Yep. I think this dude super slaps. He's a very scary model. He's very hard to take down by many things in the game that don't spam mortal wounds. Yeah, I mean, hate this thing. I hate this model, and I'm not excited to fight against him. But hey, here he is. I think these guys are awesome. I love Avalanor. Top, like, it goes Avalanor for me, the named guy, and then the regular ones are just like a step below. But they're still good. They're still good. I think they're absolutely worth their weight. Especially now that they can both issue commands and have a great command. And work so well in their faction and have so many available buffs.
And
Okay.
I was unaware of that totem rule. Now that it can actually issue the command without needing hero nearby or something like that, I'm glad that they removed that step. And it's like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
at a big
great.
range, because it's got an 18-inch range. Both of them do for their issuance. Whether they don't have to be the general, obviously, or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. The Stone Mage and the Stone Guard. The Stone Mage is 120 points. We've talked about this guy a lot as a good potential general because there's an awesome command trait for him. There's good artifacts for him. There's just a lot of action on this guy. He is a single caster wizard. You know, he has the same rend thing as everybody else, so rend 1 or rend 2 in Ymetrica. He can also choose to enter at the start of the combat phase. He can adopt his little Stone Mage stance. So, same thing. And Stone Guard units wholly within 12 cannot make pile-in moves. However, until the end of that phase, improve the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by this unit and those friendly units by 1. That's a very potent effect for a non-command ability. Pretty solid.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And his gravitic, whatever. His spell is fine. He gets to fly and he has somebody's move.
Another half movement spell.
Yep. I mean, the Mountain faction is going to blow up. Yes, Crypt Shadow. Like you're going to see a lot of Ymetrica lists. Like I said, whether or not they go the distance, I don't know, because they are one of the. They do still have a mobility challenge. That is absolutely the case. But you're going to see people trot these bad boys out and see how it goes. And they are hard as a coffin nail. Let's talk about the Stone Guard, because this might be the biggest glow up in the book amongst a series of a lot. Now, Stone Guard, they're slow. 4-inch move. 2 wounds and a 4-up save. That's fine. Fair enough. Single profile now. 2 attacks, 3/3s, neg 1/1.
Please do more of this.
Yes.
Like the whole, it's like, I get that you the sculptors modeled different ways that you can have weapons in this unit, and it's like, please just make it easier on everyone and make them do mostly the same thing.
The answer to your question, Cody, which of does the rend buff stack if there are multiple stone mages? Okay.
Yes.
The answer is yes. As it is worded right now, yes.
It worked that way in the previous book as well.
Sure. They could have rewritten it, is my point.
Okay.
Right.
No one did it.
Like because they used the wording in other places in here of if you're within range of any of things like this, you can reroll blah blah blah. Like they have used the any language in other places in this book. They decided not to do it here. So yes, you can have Rend 3 Stone Guard, who are also swinging hot for mortals, because now, so they have the same Rend rule like all Ymetrica units. Ignore Rend 1, ignore it, Rend 2 in Ymetrica proper. But now, Crushing Blow, so all their attacks are just mortal wounds on a 6, and remember there is a spell to turn it to mortal wounds on a 5. So that's just all their attacks. And remember they can pretty easily get +1 attack. That's a very doable thing. So we can turn it to a unit of 5 of these guys for 120, putting out 15 attacks on 3s, 2s, neg 2 rend 2 damage. Like that would, or sorry, 1 damage. That would be the pretty expected damage profile in a Ymetrica army. I would expect them to be swinging 3 times per, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, neg 2 rend, 1 damage. That's your sort of modicum level of buffs. There could be all outs in there to make them 2s and 2s. There could be more rend stacking. There's all sorts of other things that could happen, but that's just like you used all your pieces, right? Nothing wacky happened. But importantly, yes, the mortals are in addition. Absolutely right, Assistant Ref. Yes, that is in addition, which is really good. Importantly, Fortitude of the Earth. This unit has a ward of 4+ against mortal wounds while it is contesting an objective that you control. Man, that's a good ability. Now again, it's just
It
against
has its
mortal
limits.
wounds. But these guys with like a protection of Heish over top of them, so they're 5 up against normal wounds, 4 up against mortals. Man, they're ready to go.
While you're contesting an objective that you control, or
Correct.
whatever the wording is.
Contesting an
While they're
objective you control.
Okay, so I did say that right.
Yep, you said it right.
So it's not always going to work if you're trying to play aggressively, or like not everything, like you're almost going to. They already have a mobility challenge.
Yes.
They know that their opponent has the capability of reaching out early with those mortal wounds, say if like maybe top 1 or whatever, especially like in the mirror. I was thinking about how does the mirror work out, and they know that someone has they're facing across the table with Teclis.
Yeah.
Your already slow units are going to start the game on an objective to prevent from getting sniped by like mortal wounds that Teclis can put out early, or something else. But the point being is like you wanted to be in different places. To take advantage of this ability, you really have to limit the amount of movement you're doing with Stone Guard.
Yeah. Yeah, to
So
me, these guys are great. I think their secret best friend is a wind mage with the teleport spell. So he can like move a unit of them around as he would need to and drop them on an objective that is open, and then just let them sit, and then they'll contest it, control it, and then when the enemy comes into them next round, they're good to go. Like they're set with their 4 up against mortals and so on. Yeah, Tom, you hot on the Stone Guard?
I am actually. Like they're just doing everything that I want. They take tons of great buffs. They have a great kind of base damage. Like I just don't see how it's bad.
Yeah, they're again the move. It's the move thing holding them back, right? That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I play dwarves. It's fine.
Sure.
Fine.
So let me answer 2 questions in the chat. Manny, do you contest if there are no enemy units around? Yes. You're still contesting because you're still counting toward and whatever. It doesn't matter if there's enemies around or not. And Gareth is exactly correct. They do not get the ward the turn they move on to an objective because they are not at that point contesting, right? Because you have to get into the point where you check for contesting an objective and control it and so on and so forth. Like they have not yet taken control of the thing, so their contesting doesn't matter. It has to be contesting an objective you control. So the first time, the moment they move on, they don't have it. As soon as the turn ticks, right, and they have assuming they have gained control of the objective, they now have the ward save. Yes. But yeah, these guys are awesome. Again, slow is the thing, but hey, if Nurgle can win with a bunch of 4-inch moves, these guys will be fine. They'll get there.
And you have tools. You can cast and double move them. Give them an 8-inch move.
Absolutely. A little speed of Heish going. All right. Talked about Avlanor. There they are. There's the twins. The twins. Martin,
Wonder
talk
Twins,
about these girls for a
Ella.
moment. They're 260 points. There's a girl and
Yeah.
guy, sorry.
Power couple, the Wonder Twins, Ella. I think this is a sleeper hit now. Like they were an okay scroll, but always overpriced. But I think they're finally down to because they went down 25 points.
Yep.
And I think they're now at the place where it's like I really want to take this unit. It does require tech to use. Do you want to go through the scroll or
I'm not gonna. They basically function much the same as what they used to. So
Yeah.
The only thing they are the only scenario unit without deep thinkers, but there's a built-in buff to the sister instead. I was about to say I made mine a husband and wife because I made my own version. I was about to say what's not actually canon. But instead of deep thinkers, they have a +1 to casting, unbinding, and dispelling rolls, which is also good. They do have a keyword, so they cannot go into Zytrek and get a +2 to both, which is fair. And yes, there's an unfortunate thing where the character gets better as the game gets later. And there is a mandatory teleport, which is usually why people didn't take them. I think there is tech here where you can move up. Say if this is a power pair with Eltharion, you can move up with 2 combat monsters, and one of them can teleport away. But if you're casting, say, your ward save, you overextend a little bit, and then you teleport away with the twins to a place where you can better set up your castle with that 5-up ward. You're no longer overextended. It's like, haha, you think I've overextended it, but really, character's here, kills a thing, moves back, and all of a sudden, I have my 5-up ward again where I need it to be. It always did this, but I think it's like we're at a price point now where I like it. It has a bad signature spell. I mean, it's good if you're allying this into other armies, then it can protect itself. But you're usually going to be casting Protection of Hysh with this model.
Yeah. Tom, where you at with these guys?
I mean, I've always loved them. I wanted to run them. I like them better, cheaper, right? Like,
yep.
That's I like cheaper units. They in general, they are, they still, I think, suffer from having a function.
Sure, of like defining the role of what they're there to actually do. Yeah,
they don't have a real clear defined role. I actually think they probably are better as allies. Than as just because they serve a better function there than how they're serving here.
Sure.
I'm looking at them as a toolbox. I'm seeing it's like I can do so much with this unit. I understand like the mandatory teleport is not good, but you can plan around that in ways which is neat.
So, let me ask you a question, Martin.
Yeah.
Would you rather have them or New Eltharion?
I would use both.
Ha! Got him.
Got him.
Like I did write a list with both of them in it. It would be both of them, Avalanor and a Stone Mage, and the Stone Mage general. The Stone Mage would be the general. No, I'm not saying this is it's. I would like to test it out. I have not played enough games with, I'm only looking at it now because I think 260 is about the ceiling of what I would pay for in this unit.
Sure.
And like where it was at 285, I would like. I'm already like, no, this is beyond indulgent.
Like as a toolbox, I would like it around 220.
I get where you're coming from. Like that's why I said
function, and that's my fear is that it just kind of gets lost in the mix. This wouldn't be terrible if you had them with a bodyguard. So I think Blade Lords actually complement them pretty well because they do have the Sonari keyword. But I don't know. I just struggle.
No, the main problem is that no matter what, if you fight with them at all, you generally have to teleport. It's not like if it doesn't just check if you've suffered any wounds because the character. Because I like this implementation of the narrative mechanic, and I talked about it the last time we were visiting this Warscroll. Am I actually going to bring them to a tournament? I'm not sure yet, but I would like to really give it a thought. Basically where I am with this.
My concern is that basically what this means is that anything that you charge, if you're going to have to teleport afterwards,
right? And I can work that into my plan as well.
And you can't hold objectives with them because if you're on the objective,
you can move to another objective.
Yeah, if you're on objective and you get charged, you have to functionally flee with the teleport.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
You use it aggressively, not defensively.
Yeah, I want to keep moving just because we got more stalls and we've been going a while. My answer is people won't take them still. You got to come down more points. Okay, the Wind Mage. So the Wind Mage is very much like what he used to do. He's +1 to save against missile weapons. Then he can blow away the arrows and go shoot and do mortal wounds to people near him. Very funny little thing. He now has like all the Huracan units. He has move like the wind on his scroll, where your pile-in move doesn't have to finish. I love this double negative. I'm going to read this out loud just because it's the funniest thing to me. When you make a pile-in move with this unit, it does not have to finish the move no further from the nearest enemy unit than it was at the start of the move. Wonderful double negative. Love
Yeah,
it.
there was a copy editing thing in there, error or something like that.
Yeah, just it can got it. It can walk. It can pile away from people. Check. Okay. And in addition, when it charges, it gets an extra 3 inches for piloting, so it can walk away 6 inches if it wants. As we mentioned earlier, it has a little wind leap thing, which you could choose to modify with the what we talked about earlier on. It's normally if you start with wind charges within 6 inches, they suddenly gain a speed of 16 inches and fly, whereas normally they're 14 inches in ground pounders. Okay, so fine. 120 points. He's fine. His spell is fine. It's nothing impressive. It's fine. The wind chargers, who are 150 points, battle line in Helon. Go Helon. Team Helon. The wind charger bows make 2 attacks each, 3s, neg 1 damage. And importantly, wind charger arrows, ward rolls cannot be made for wounds and mortal wounds caused by attacks made with missile weapons by this unit. And when they move, they can fly. They can move across terrain features as though they can fly. Not enemies, but terrain. Okay. Our little wind temple. Tom, where are you sitting on the wind temple?
I've always loved wind chargers. Like in my original Lumineth list, I was running wind chargers, even when I wasn't Helon. I still love them. I love them more now with the thought that I can ignore ward saves and be 3 attacks a model. I'm sad that I lost a neg 2 rend bow attacks because these dudes like to throw down before.
No, they famously turned their bow sideways into the kill shot in melee. Yes, that is gone.
Yep. But I still like these guys. These guys are putting out, like, if you come in with these guys, you're going to do 3 attacks in shooting. So you're going to do 15 attacks in shooting and then another 15 attacks in melee. And they can, like, charge 1 unit and then pile into another. I think the tech on these dudes is hot.
Yeah. I think they're still a contender. They're still very interesting. The ward punch is really interesting in the current world. Yeah,
I always think about it just like looking at them on paper. It's like this is like toothpick damage, but like when you math it out, it is a not insignificant amount. See, I did it, the double negative there for you. It is not an insignificant amount. You have to really know how to play these. I've never really, like, I used them once or twice, like in TTS. It's like I really wanted to see what the Helon army was about. But when you have the ability where you can pile in any direction, not just towards the closest model, you really have to know what you're doing with them. And I think if you're not extra careful, you will lose your army. And so, like, that's why I generally have stayed away from them. I prefer, like, even when I look at the Wind Mage, it's like I could just get Teclis to cast these spells. That's just from my playing of the army, not necessarily saying the Wind Mage is bad. That's just what I'm used to.
For me, I loved running as a little power trio, like a Wind Mage, a set of Wind Chargers, and Severeth. To me, that was like a nice little, highly mobile, super high threat thing that the enemy had to respond to. And that's often like not what Lumineth doesn't have. Oftentimes, Lumineth doesn't have, like, at castles, it doesn't create this highly threatening charging trio. Now it's a little bit different now because, like, both the foxes have lost, and we're going to get to that, their heel near the Wind Mage, which was a huge boon when you were already controlling how much combat the foxes were actually getting. Being able to heal them automatically was really nice in addition to all the bonus movement. So I say all that to say I like it. I like what it offers, and I think that I don't know that I would go Helon. Like, let me say this way: I would still include these guys if I wasn't Helon. If I was Helon, I would be all in. I'd have 3 units of 5.
Yeah, what I love about him in Helon is just now you just automatically effectively get the +1 attack whenever you want with your missile weapons. It's just so easy with these guys. Like, it is not an issue. Okay. Matthew Rose, hey, what's up, buddy? Welcome. Glad to have you here. Yeah, Barakai, they're still very much Sentinels. Some of their worst things got clipped off, like the lack of Lambent Light and stuff like that. But I mean, if you love mortal wounds on a 5, you'll still love Sentinels at 30 inches. That is still a thing they can do. So that did not go away. So I guess it's up to you. And they're cheaper now, so let's call it little from column A, little from column B.
Yeah.
All right. Severith. He's Severith. You mentioned the important thing already, which is that he doesn't heal near the Wind Mage. And the other really important thing to mention about Severith is Spirit of the Wind. Well, this is the key critical issue right here. Okay. Which is Spirit of the Wind at the end of your shooting phase. This unit can make a normal move or a retreat of 12 inches. It cannot run. In addition, this unit can retreat and still charge later in the turn. But it's at the end of your shooting phase.
It should be noted. It should be noted that in the previous book, it was simply not stated, and this rule was given power by the FAQ rather than what was printed in the base text.
Sure.
So, that
wasn't the egregious part about Severus, though. Like, let me.
No, I get.
I think it was.
No, like it was part of it because he was hard to catch. The more
impossible to catch.
Yeah,
unless you're playing very specific armies.
The more infuriating thing was that he could pull you into combat and you couldn't engage him because your pile-in was reduced by 2 inches.
Sure.
And now that rule's also gone.
Yes.
I was playing against when I went to I visited Warhammer World for Memorial Day weekend. I was playing against Mitzi, friend of the show, and I had just a regular Fox, and his entire Iron Jaws army could do absolutely nothing to my Fox because it would get to move 12 inches every shooting phase. Like, why is this thing?
All it took to beat that, Tom, was having a weapon with a 2-inch reach.
Of course.
Okay, and lots of things have that. The entire Fox army, Fox Force 5, okay, piloted by people like Joe Cryer, right, was literally predicated on annoying the crap out of your opponent and just dancing around and never getting caught because you could move in every shooting phase. And in most matchups, unless they ran into another heavy shooting army, they won at setup because of that.
Yeah.
Okay? It was some of the most toxic BS that has ever been printed on a Warhammer scroll.
Yeah. And it wasn't even printed on a Warhammer scroll. It was an FAQ thing.
Sure. I mean, it was the fair, rules as written interpretation of what was written. So that's fine. Mm-hmm. At any rate, it's gone now. I'm fine with Severith. He's still very mobile, still shooty boy who does high-rend shooty damage, but doesn't end up doing a ton of damage because of the nature of his weapon profile. He's 320. The regular Huracan, who still has the 24-inch move and the 8 wounds and the 5-up ward and 10 wounds versus 8 wounds and blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff. Their rules got trimmed, simplified. They both only move the end of the phase. This guy's down to 250. I'm good with it. I'm good with these guys now. Honestly, I'm like, yeah, okay. Cool. Yep. Got it. Like, yep, they're extremely mobile, skirmishing, shooting units. Neat. Fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. You just can't angle shoot with them and basically cheat your way to victory anymore. Great.
Yeah.
They now have to go play Warhammer. Like most units play the game, where you actually have to, risk things to accomplish your goals.
Yeah, I'll say is that these guys are now just shooters. They're no longer skirmishers. Their goal is
not always true because they operate like they get the thing like Tau battle suits in 40K, to use an analogy, where you get to move them from a place of safety to have clear line of sight to shoot, and then you get to move them back at the end of the shooting phase to that place of safety.
Right, but that's not that
I know that. I'm just saying
that would be the definition of a skirmisher. The way that they fight. That is literally what that thing is. People who ran out, shot, and then were able to go quickly disperse into cover. And act in a non sort of traditional rank and flank way.
Yeah. I mean, they're all right. It's, again, not really my play style. I played it once so I could understand what the army did. like at that combo, and I'm like, not for me. I'm glad they reeled it in somewhat. But yeah, that's all I really have to say on the two foxes. Like they were not like, if you wanted to keep running tally of what units I played in which games, they were not up there in terms of how often I use them.
I'm just watching the chat, by the way, and I love how these are some of the. I will say these foxes are some of the most Marmite models they've ever created. Like people either absolutely love these models or hate them. That's what I'm seeing in the chat.
I love my conversion.
Sure, yeah, it's fine. It's
I have
it's got
one
less flair,
Zenithal.
Tom.
I have one that's Zenithal. I'm not sure if I'll paint it anytime soon.
Sure,
It's a fox, which is what matters to me. It's an elf.
Yeah, I mean, my buddy has two of these things, one Severeth and one normal, and he uses them fairly often. Like they're fine. He likes them. I'm sure they'll still show up in some Huracan armies and stuff. I mean, it should be stated, these guys that specifically, both of them, if put in Helon, okay, since they both can do that, can still very easily now get the +1 shot, just like all the rest of the super range shooters. Like, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is something, right? If you do move a couple of them up, it's suddenly 10 attacks on like two of them move up to within 6 inches and make 10 attacks at 2s, 3s, 5 at -3 rend, 5 at -2 rend, D3 damage each. That's not an insignificant shooting profile that just hits something.
More damage than a Maw Crusher because you're more points in than a Maw Crusher.
I mean, it's less risk than when you bring your Maw Crusher in.
Well, they're different armies.
Like, it is certainly less risk because then at the end of that shooting phase, they're going to go back 12 inches still.
Right, so they're at 16 inches from the enemy.
18.
18. Yeah. Like, against any
back
unit
over a chaff line or any other thing you could have in the way, like on the other side of wardens or something else. Yes, or big terrain or like 18 inches away is known as the distance you start away from your opponent in most games.
I don't know.
That's a lot less risk than a lot of other armies pay for close up for shooting that gets that close and can pick targets that easily.
I don't know. Like, I'd rather have them in another zip code and doing, like 30-inch, like have them 30 inches away. Like,
you'd rather have ballista, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, the problem is that these guys just fold. Like, they can't take hits. So if they get caught, they're dead. Period.
Yeah, I mean, they're 5 up, right? Like, yeah, they're not going to survive through anything too tough.
No, and 8 wounds. Like, they're just they are paper.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Let me say it this way: they have a worse profile than 5 wind chargers.
I understand. I don't disagree with that. I understand. The regular guy.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about them in melee. If they are in melee, mistake, or it's round 5 and it's better than 0 attacks, it's something that needs to die.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you have to. The question becomes like their comparison against the ballista is an interesting thing. And like, I don't know, is it just worth it to take 2 ballista? Like, yeah, maybe. Right? Like that's, or just more sentinels or something like that. Was the only value of these guys in the ridiculous tricks. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like to me that like their utility was in their ability to pin things and not get hit back. Or like the high mobility where they could pick their fights with, they could do some shooting, they could pick their fights, and then they could like pull people into combat, keep them out of actual combat because of the pile in rule. And
you're mentioning like stacking NPE things though, I think.
Right.
That's fine, but I'm saying that's what earned them 320 points. I don't know that in their current incarnation they're worth their points.
Okay.
That's
fair
I'm
enough.
not sure.
All right, yeah.
I guess we'll see. And yes, thank you. Gareth is exactly correct.
Let me say that. They're not doing lots of shooting damage. The profile looks nice.
No, but it's always average damage. Yes. That's what I said at the beginning. Now, I will point out, just as Gareth said, it's 18 inches. They can be 18 inches from any enemy unit. Remember, they don't have to get within 6 of what they want to shoot. They could pop near 6 inches to the corner of some chaff unit
Sure.
then they're going 18 inches into the unit they want to kill, and then going 18 inches back away from the rest of the army. It is a pretty easy thing to turn on, the +1 to attack.
Yeah, for like a 1.1 damage or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, hey, it's another shot. I'm sorry, is +1 attack bad, Tom? Is that the argument you just made?
Yeah.
Okay, you're wrong. It's that easy. Like, obviously you know you're wrong. That's the stupidest thing you've ever said on this show. +1 attack is one of the greatest buffs in the history of Warhammer. You know it. I know it. The American people know it. Let's move on. Next.
When you have multiple models, when you have a
Next.
We're almost there.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. Of course there's a scaling bonus. But yes, it's still good. Endless spells. You might ask yourself, where's the Underworld's Warband? I don't know. They disappeared. They teleported away in transport. I'm not sure where they went. I don't not even bother with those scrolls. So
Make
if
your
they're
own
good,
decision.
sorry I missed them. But realistically, they're never good, so I'm okay.
No, it makes me laugh that they're gone now. Or well, they're not gone. Like
No, they're
I
in the
don't.
book.
not in
I
this
just didn't
presentation.
bother to put them in.
You didn't put them in.
No,
because I
skip 'em.
assembled mine anyways and used them for other models.
Yeah, like 9 out of 10 times, if you don't talk about them, it's completely irrelevant. They never show up in lists ever. So, like, I have a 90% success rate if I ignore them. It's cool. That's a great success rate. I'll take it. Okay. So, the Twin Stones and the Sanctum of Eminentok.
Eminentok.
Sure, let's go with that. Martin, will anyone ever take the Sanctum?
Someone I've seen in the chat, actually, someone who wants to ensure that their Stone Mage is protected, but I guess that's like okay, because usually you want the Stone Mage in the same zip code as Avalanor, and Avalanor has to move because he's only movement 6 inches. So, I guess I can only think that it's useful in a Stone Mage. I can't think of any other character in this army that would want to use Sanctum. I physically have to find Rune of Petrification. I recently moved. I'm still unpacking some of my other hobby junk, and the Rune of Petrification came off the sprue when they rewrote the scroll in one of the balance updates, and it's still good, and I still need to find it because it is very cheap, it is very good, and I don't want to just proxy it because that doesn't seem like it's very sporting, especially when I have the model.
Okay. Tom, has anybody ever taken the Sanctum?
Nope.
Nope. Nope. Nope. And yet it's 50 points. Okay, cool. Cool stuff. Good one on that. Twin Stones. Twin Stones is still Twin Stones. It's the fixed Twin Stones. It's 50 points. It adds bonuses to cast and builds more bonuses. I shouldn't say that. It has the potential to add a bonus to a cast and builds that bonus as more spells are cast. Cool. It's fine. I could see some Twin Stones showing up in some armies.
Yeah, they fixed it. It used to be like it went from too good to unplayable. Now I think we're in the happy medium.
Yep. But all of this doesn't matter because boom, we got to talk about the real winner. The thunder from down under over here, the Rune of Petrification. We had a chance to fix this thing. Okay.
And they're like, nah, let's turn it up.
They're like, nah, let's knock this bad boy down like 30 points and just make it good. This spell it's ridiculous. It's like, what is going on here? Why can we not price endless spells the best? People who are pricing endless spells. I'm gonna let you in on a secret to understand. If you're a new person, I'm gonna let you in on a secret to understanding endless spells. Look in your book. Find the cheapest endless spell. That's the best one in the book. It is better usually. Like, again, this is one of those like 9 out of 10 times it's true. It is going to be better than the more expensive ones. Like, functionally, not just because of its cost. Functionally, it is better. They always invert these things. Okay. Summoning. This endless spell is summoned. Blah, blah, blah. It has a casting value of 8. Who cares in this army? Easy to power out. And a range of 18 inches. You might know that, as I said earlier, as the DMZ in between two armies when you start the game. So, good stuff so far. Just a better range than all the base endless spells. Why not? I mean, it's no Terminexus, but it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
At the start of the movement phase,
35 points for that 8 inches of movement.
yeah. At the start of the movement phase and at the end of the movement phase, for no reason, roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches of this endless spell. On a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you cast it out. It's a big pulse. Then it's the end of the movement phase. It's a big pulse. By the way, it's the movement phase, not anyone in particular's movement phase.
Do you know what the most egregious part about this is?
There's a lot. There's a lot to might qualify.
Because Teclis can like teleport a unit that himself or another one that then can be 9 inches out and then place this in the middle of the enemy army.
Sure. And just hit, like, take 2 swings at everything, and then third when it goes to their turn. And if they can't get away from it because of overwhelming heat and the movement penalty this thing has caused, okay,
no,
then let's just keep this train rolling.
Yeah, you missed it because you're gonna do this and then Technado.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So ping everybody for a D3 probably around there. Yep. And then your movement phase beginning, your movement phase end. They go, if they don't get rid of it, their movement phase then. So they've taken on average 4 D3 mortals. Well, no, this is triggering on a 4+, so they're going to
is on a 4+.
Like 2D3 to 3D3 mortals.
Yeah, that's right. Does about 5 more. Like, if combined with the Technado, you're talking about basically a zone of 5 mortal wounds on average, with obviously the ability to spike much higher.
It's just insanity. And like, you could combine this with like Helon wind chargers to screen for you so that they could jump up 16 inches in front of Teclis if he teleported himself.
Sure. And by the way, it doesn't affect Lumineth units either in any way.
Right, of course.
Sure.
Why would it? Who knows? Why would it?
Yeah. So it's hilarious to me that this thing double taps in the way it does. It's just like, it's a really good endless spell.
No,
I think.
Sorry, Gareth, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm wasting my time with Teclis. I'll just lore seeker him out
or deep thinker it out,
and then deep thinker it out, and then just push it out with deep. What was I thinking?
Yeah, obviously, obvi.
I can't.
This spell, I love it. 40 points, cheapest one. Nailed it. It's great. I mean, it's a very powerful spell. Unbind it. If you see it coming your way, take a shot at it. It's a worthwhile one to roll at.
So which one are you picking that bite at, Vince? This or the 5-up ward?
5-up ward. I'll take the wounds.
I have played against just another quick anecdote. I know this show's been going long. I play against every once in a while in Philadelphia. There's a very, very casual group of friends. We just play, like, not tournament games, anything like that. Plays Bone Reapers. And he starts the game where it's like, "Oh, you're gonna crush me. It's Lumineth. You're gonna table me. I mean, it happens. We're just." He predicts the game is going to go a certain way. He rolls the natural 11, just like for Catacross for heroic willpower, unbinding Teclis's ward save, and then 2 of the catapults kill the archer unit. And then he had the Death Rider units charge my Spearman, and he basically tabled me by top of 3. It's like, that's what happens when you get very lucky and unbind my ward save twice, and you just have to roll high.
That happens.
It's always the thing. Shut down the ward save. Okay. Chris said he's not sure he'd use the Sanctum if it was free, to be fair. I agree with Chris. But this thing's great. You know, my Lumineth player in our group was using it at 70 points and loving it and getting value out of it. At 40, it's a steal because it's the same scroll.
He's like, yes, I will take a discount.
Right, absolutely. So, yeah. And then final thing to mention is the shrine is the shrine, by the way. It still does shrine stuff. It does what it does.
Still good.
It's still good. It's still a great piece of terrain. It's still a very huge, ridiculous piece of terrain that is highly functional. A standout amongst probably like the 4th best faction terrain.
No one asked the FAQ question because now the FAQ's been overruled. The thing where it turned the gap underneath changes whether it's impassable or not, depending on if it's garrisoned. I can't like I asked that question. Like I hope I was the only person who asked that question because that would make it even more funny. But like no one asked that question because the terrain gets more complicated with that rule, or rather FAQ ruling. So
Sure.
let's just keep it as it is right now.
Final note to make: their allies, Daughters of Cain, IDK, Sylvaneth, and Stormcast Eternals.
That is huge. That is
They're welcoming in
incredible.
friends now. They've opened up the nations.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Assistant Ref says, compare this to the Slanesh terrain piece. Hilarity ensues. I agree. I agree with that. All right, so good stuff. That's Lumineth, everybody. We did it. We got there. Martin, thanks, brother. That's good.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
overall,
having me.
I have to say, I am much more positive about this book. Like, they did cut a lot of the bad NPE. I think there, like we said at the top, I think there are different builds and different units that are interesting. I think you're going to see a lot of Stone Guard stuff. I think you're going to also see some Helon stuff. I think in the current season, some of your base Venari things aren't, especially Wardens, are a little less attractive. But, you know, time will change. Tom, I see you're rocking the apple cider sparkling ice. You too went to Costco and picked up the fall selection. I cottoned that just from the color of what you were drinking.
And so apple cider, yay?
It's okay. It's okay.
What
But
was
the,
your favorite?
the cranberry frost in that pack is incredible. It's
right?
so good.
Yeah, it's so good.
All right.
I would not be surprised just because of that. Like you could if we had the time, which we do not. The opportunities that the allies list offers combined with the internal balance offers, like it would not surprise me if I saw like a podium list, like not like top 3, but like say like top 10%, a Lumineth army that included either Durthu or Celestin Prime or a dedicated hammer unit that really completes the blue deck nature of Lumineth.
Sure.
Yeah.
Crypt Shadow said, would it now be easier for new players to pick up or still pretty complicated? No, I think it's definitely easier. It's certainly not as bad. It is still a more complex army. It is still quite an expensive army, though far from the most expensive. But it is still a higher cost army. I think it is definitely more new player friendly, but to me, it is now firmly in like the, if you really love High Elves and you're willing to put in the dedication, yes, it's fine for your first army. Just know it's going to be complicated and it's a little finessey and a little fiddly, and like you may have some losses for a while at the beginning as you're trying to cotton through how to use all these intricate pieces you've got to sort of dance with. But it's a great second army. Where is Tom? Tom is at Steve Herner's house. Steve Herner is the TO of Holy Havoc and Holy Wars, so he is visiting.
If
Steve
you were
right now.
watching carefully, Steve walked by just about mid-show.
Sure.
Yeah, a few people were asking who that was, and I didn't want to say because that would give it away or whatever.
Yes, he is at Herner's house. Steve has a fantastic hobby room, and that is where Tom is currently broadcasting from. So
look at those paints; it's just beautiful.
Yeah, he's got a great. Like I said, his hobby room is impressive.
Yep,
it is quite a space.
I'm at 4 desks in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week will be Sons of Bahamut doing the review. A much different and simpler show, that's going to be for sure. Watch as we go through 5 Warscrolls or whatever instead of 50.
I mean, but it's going to be Tyler, so...
You're going to talk about a lot of stats. Vince is going to make like I can predict right now. There's going to be a PowerPoint with graphs of stats for each of the attacks.
Well, I'm
that's
like I
what's
said,
important.
don't forget, I'm traveling from tomorrow until, like, actually next Sunday. I'll be on the road for like 10 days straight in various ways. And so I don't know if I will have time to make all my fun charts. And the answer is no, he does not have more paints on his wall than me. He has a lot of paints, but it's not more than me. Tom could turn around and count if you want, but I know the number off the top of my head is I have 1,012 paints on my wall. So there you go.
He does not.
At any rate, thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support the show, there is a Patreon down below that you can do so, focused on your hobby and getting review and feedback and taking your next step on your personal journey. Don't forget, you can also pick up merch. You can make your vote for Team Tom or Team Tyler. I'll tell you, I don't even know who this Tyler guy is anymore. Hasn't been here for a month. If the Team Tom merchandise hasn't pulled ahead, then Tom, I'm worried about you. I'm worried about you. You're here 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to do the push. It's the marketing push. That's what this is right here. To really just try to lock down. Those shirts hey, Team Tom shirts look wonderful on both men and women.
Sure, just cast a wide net. And yes, Matthew Rose, last week we literally dug deep into that. We have a chart in there about what armies are good to start with for a first time. So check it out. At any rate, thank you so much, everybody. Martin, an absolute pleasure, as always, my friend. It is always great to have you on the show. For all of you out there, thank you so much